Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I believe it's about time to start. Welcome all of you out here to our city council meeting. Glad to have you here. We'll go ahead and state this, that it's Payson City Council meeting on April 18th, 2018. The time I've got on my handy-dandy watch is 6 o'clock straight up, so hope that matches with everybody else's. I'd like to start this meeting with a prayer. I'd like to have Kim Hollandrake give us that prayer.
Our dear Father in heaven, we come before thee at this time as Payson City officials, residents, and staff to discuss the needs and issues pertaining to the city. We ask that thou would bless us, that we can have open minds in our discussions and that we can make wise decisions for the community. We're grateful for all the opportunities that thou hast given us, and we say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Kim. We'd like to ask Max Strivel if he would come up and lead us in the pledge.
Would you all please rise? Please recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Max. I gave him a full 2 minutes notice, so appreciate that very much. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda. Approval of the April 3rd, 2018 council work session minutes and also approval of the April 4th, 2018 council minutes. Do I have a motion to accept?
I would motion that we accept the consent agenda and the work session agendas.
Good. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Move on to C, petitions and communications, public forum. Anyone can speak on an item that's not on the agenda. The time limit is 3 minutes. We'll go ahead and do that to that point. Anyone would like to come up and talk about an issue that they would? Great. Please give us your name and where you live.
My name is Jens Nielsen. I live in Spanish Fork. I'm an attorney in Spanish Fork. I do some legal work for the SESD, the electric district. I think all of you have received a letter from the attorney they've hired to, the law firm they've hired to, I guess, handle all the legal matters that are going on now between the district and the cities. So I've been asked to just come over and I guess make a pitch for the interlocal agreement that's been in place for a while between the city and the district. There are probably a few good reasons to keep the interlocal agreement in place. The district and the city are both members of UAMPS. I think the interlocal agreement is a better format, it's a better working document than the 98 agreement. I think you're all familiar with, when I say the 98 agreement, what that means. So, you know, I've been involved I haven't been 100% involved in all the discussions, so I'm not 100% familiar with all of it. But regardless of maybe what's been said or how things have worked up to this point, I think from the district's perspective, we just want the city council to know, the city to know that we feel the interlocal agreement would be the best way to go forward, better than the 98 agreement, or better than probably even the current state code. Now, the current state code, I would be untruthful if I said I fully grasp all the provisions that apply to this circumstance. Like I said, I haven't been the lead person on this with the district, but the interlocal is something that the two parties worked out, and so I think if there's a chance to save it and make it good for the city and also good for the district, that would be the best way to go. And this is the public forum portion, so I don't know if I can answer any questions or take anything back to the district. I think you've all received a letter. And if there are any questions, I'll be glad to do my best to answer them.
I'll leave that up to the council if they'd like to answer questions. Go ahead.
And the letter came like 5 minutes before the meeting started.
So plenty of time to read it.
Right.
Understand it.
I did read it.
I didn't see a letter.
Okay. So if there's no questions, we'll thank you for your time and thank you for informing us. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Larry Skinner. I live in Payson. With no disrespect to Mr. Nelson, I would ask that you move forward with agenda item number 9 for many reasons. One of the most glaring reasons would be that the district itself tried to usurp this interlocal through legislation, backdoor legislation, just recently at the legislative session. And I think it's in the best interest of Payson City to move forward with item number 9. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Anyone else? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to staff and council reports. Any staff here would like to come up, please come up.
Mayor, council, and public, I just give you a quick snow update. There's not a lot, but we right now, as of today, are 67% of normal on the precip was all up the canyon. We're down to 13% on the snow water equivalent. We have 6 inches of snow, which 5 of it came yesterday with the storm. So we were about empty, but I don't know. We'll check, as soon as we can, we'll get up to the lakes and see kind of how full they've gotten and that over the winter and with the snow melt. But we're unsure exactly when we're going to have the PI on because we don't dare really turn it on with just the canyon flow because I'm afraid it'll kind of start and then it'll go off. But, we'll definitely try to get active by May 1st with the High Line if we can. But until they put water in the canal, we're a little iffy. But we're going to look at it next week with the temperatures and see if we can, try to get that. But I know a lot of people keep sending comments asking us when it's coming on, and we don't know because without that water source, it's kind of hard. But
You drain the pond without any help.
yeah, we can drain the pond in a day depending on usage, maybe 2. So it's not that hard. So we'll try to keep them informed and the residents when we know. But in case you get questions, that's kind of where we're at. So unless you have any more questions.
I just have a question. Isn't the ground kind of sloppy right now?
I don't think you need the water
That's
right
what I
now,
was
but
thinking.
if we get in the 70s, low 80s, maybe by next week, like it's kind of showing right now, I'm sure people will start wanting it. But with the rain, I think we're supposed to get some rain by Friday again. So I think that's why we've been all right. We haven't really worried about it, but we'll try to keep an eye on it and see where it goes. But I don't think anyone really needs the water right now.
The only issue I ever have with it is it's prime time to put fresh grass in if you plant seed or sidro seed. If you can't water it and you hit one of those days, get 75, you lose it all. That's the only concern I ever have with holding off on it. But
And we're just at the mercy of our water source.
It's not worth turning it on for now.
Because the problem is we have to open the drains to get the water in it, and then if that goes dry, we get airlocks, we have to reopen, we have to go through that whole process over and over again. So that's the negative. If we turn it on and people run out, then it airlocks, and we have to redo that.
Well, it's good to know that because people do see that there is some in those reservoirs, but it would drain real quick.
Yeah, it wouldn't take us long to drain it. So.
Okay. Thanks, Travis.
Yep.
Mayor, City Council, public. Just a quick report of what we've had going on so far this month at the police department. We've made 54 arrests that resulted in 105 offenses. We wrote 119 traffic citations as a result of 155 violations. We've handled 629 calls for service, made 3 DUI arrests, 246 traffic stops, and 16 traffic accidents. So we're off to a leaping start this month. One thing I don't see Janine was here or not, but we just reminded we have the pay it forward on the 28th at 8:30. So hopefully you come out and do traffic control with us. I'm just kidding.
As long as you wave to Linda.
We'll wait till
As long
Linda.
as they wave at me.
I gave them a picture of you in their car. They should.
Well, they better have that there.
They wave at me with their lights.
I told them they could pull it over too.
Oh, thanks.
Mayor and Council, just to give you an update, we just finished another one of our community CPR classes, which had a pretty good turnout. So we'll be doing another one of those classes in June, trying to do it for minimal cost, provide that service for a lot of people that need it, babysitters and those people that require for their work. So also, if you didn't make it to the donkey basketball, you missed out. It was a lot of fun. It was hard to make a basket, and the donkeys went where they wanted. So we had a good time. We lost the first one and the last second shot, and we won our second round. So we had a good time. It was fun that they invited us to participate in that. Also, we've received our poly tank for our 5 tons. We finally got that set on last week. So we'll start working on that and finish with all the fittings and the pumps and the reels and everything. So that'll give us a little bit of water as a small water tender, but also as a heavy brush for wildland fires. Then a reminder, we have the great Utah Shakeout tomorrow. Most of the state is at 10:15. As we met with our groups, a lot of them complained because most people aren't home at 10:15, so we decided to try this year at 6 o'clock. So we'll have block captains go around, check on homes, and then do the communication process. Although in an earthquake, you don't get to take one if it comes. So anyway, we'll see how that goes and we'll let you know. Thanks.
Good evening. A couple things. Today at the golf course we had a state senior tournament, so that was fun. We had people from all the way from St. George and as far north as I could find was Brigham City, so they came from quite everywhere. We had about 80 players from 50, and I think the oldest one I found was 80, so that was fun. At the parks, if you've noticed the pavilion going up, so that's coming along. And I haven't seen, is Janine here? Just a reminder about Arbor Day, a week from tomorrow. Brad Olson's going to speak, and we have some school kids that are going to help us plant trees, and so that's I believe that's at 10:30. I thought Janine was going to cover that, so I don't want to cover too much.
We're planting trees in the park?
Not, yeah, and the old Payson Park that's now Blackhawk Park. It was renamed Blackhawk Park. And then we do a drawing so some of the kids can win a tree or two. So,
What day is Arbor Day?
The 26th, Thursday, a week from tomorrow.
Sweet.
Any questions about the parks or okay?
No, when we're done, I was just going to follow up on that email message I sent you about the little pocket parks.
Oh yeah, that's trick photography. No, a lot of the parks, it's just honestly, it depends on when you take a picture. You know,
Sure.
After, like, everything's beautiful and green now, it's hard to keep. Let's see, how do I say this bluntly? You guys choose when we get to water the parks. So if it's August and we only get to water a certain amount, sometimes they get dry spots in some of these little pocket parks. So, and not you guys, but we all have to, conserve. So I would love to keep them perfectly green. We try our best, but it's hard when especially in some of the.
Tracy, none of us will be able to be there to the arbor because we will be in St. George. Won't we?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was just going to stand up and say that.
Oh, sorry.
We'll let you know how it goes.
Okay.
It's usually fun.
Plant a tree for me.
Yeah, we'll plant a tree for you guys.
Where is this park that was renamed?
The best way to explain it is just north of Hollow Park. I mean, north of Hollow Park is through the,
Okay,
walk there, yeah, so.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other staff? Oh, there we go. Right, flew into the
Quickly, Mayor and Council and public, just wanted to report a few things. Last night we did meet with the Park Tax Committee, and Tara Macon will be presenting tonight later in the budget session, report from that committee. We will be hosting as well our youth track meets with all the elementary schools starting over the next 2 weeks, starting next Tuesday. So we'll have 10 elementary school worth of third graders there too. So there's quite a bit. 1,000 third graders will be there, and then fourth and fifth and sixth. So also public, if you're unaware, we are having a Viva El Mariachi event on May 4th in conjunction with Cinco de Mayo. And it'll be a free event to the public to come and watch the mariachi dancers and players of string instruments. So it'll be a great event, and we're excited to have that. That'll be at the Petit Amphitheater, and I would show up at 6 o'clock. Yep. And the show should start at 7. Thank you.
I'm back again. Sorry, I forgot one important thing. I usually have notes, but we're all the RV park at the golf course. Kent's been up there just really going the last couple weeks, so it's if you haven't seen it lately, even since we had the meeting up there, it's come a long way. So they're really doing a great job. I appreciate Travis and Ken especially. He's been really good. So it's exciting if you get a chance to get up there. I think tomorrow they're tying the sewer in from the clubhouse, so we're getting close to getting the sewer in. So anyway, if you get a chance, come see it because it's looking real good.
Tracy, how many stalls are there?
To be determined. We're right now. We're about. We're still working on. I know it sounds crazy, but designs. We might get rid of a couple, but we're going to have 50 some odd, and we're just kicking. We'd rather have 50 awesome spots than 57 mediocre spots. So just with the how it lays out, we have a layout, but we've just been kind of tweaking a little bit as we go. So. But we should have quite a few spots, and we'll start pouring pads pretty soon. As soon as they get that done, then you'll start to kind of see it come together. So,
good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. Any other staff?
I guess I will just a reminder, as Lynn said, next Wednesday evening is when the League of Cities and Towns starts. You're all scheduled to be down there, if you can be down there. And, I'll be down there earlier in the week with the city managers from Monday to Wednesday, and then we'll go into the league meeting. So if there's any issues that come up, let me know that you're all registered and ready to go.
Okay, one more call for staff. I guess lacking that, we'll go on to council reports. Any council reports? Go ahead. Okay. Yep.
I don't have much. I just want to thank the staff for their hard work, and I know they've been working in committees on a lot of different things, Tour of Utah, RV parks, all sorts of things going on. So I appreciate the work that they always do. I think they do a good job, and they're very professional in the way they carry out their work.
Thank you. I would like to take just a short period of time here and just note that I think it was last Friday we had Miss Payson up at the high school. I apologize in advance. I don't have the names. I should. I was there. But it was extremely gratifying to see the talent these 5 young ladies had. We do have a queen and 2 attendants. It was my honor to be there. It was also my honor and my singing partner to sing the national anthem. So it's the first one I've attended for a long, long time. But I'm just very proud of those young ladies that are going to represent us, and the 2 that unfortunately weren't able to be part of the royalty. But it was very gratifying to see that. Thank you.
I just want to mention, I know that you've all ridden by the park and seen the new gazebo. No, pavilion. Thank you. I knew gazebo wasn't big enough. Anyway, yeah, the new pavilion, and they've done such a good job, and I'm so excited about it. I've had a lot of people comment about how it's going to add a lot to our park. And I think that's true. I think it really looks good, and maybe during the salmon supper, we won't have to stand in the rain if it rains. Can I complain about something? Okay. There's a couple of things that concern me, simply because I've gotten so many calls over the last 2 weeks. And I noticed there was a letter on our email about the same subject, about somebody that wants to move into Payson and how concerned they are about their neighbors' yards and how trashy it looks. I've gotten multiple, maybe it's because my kids hang out down there at Joe's, but I've gotten call after call after call about a gentleman across the street that has that big long truck with junk in, and I feel like we need to do something. I know, and I'm sorry, but I haven't read the policy about what Payson City does. If we go out and tell them they need to clean up their yards, or what we do. But I think that's something that we owe all the citizens in Payson. So I think that's something that we need to look at. I know Brad doesn't have the officers to do it. And now I'm retired, I could put on a gun belt and I'll go around and do that. But anyway, Mark's shaking his head, I'm sorry.
Gave him a heart attack.
I know, I'm sorry, Mark. Anyway, I think it would be something that we should look into. Thank you, that's all I've got.
Thank you, Councilwoman Carter.
I just have one thing, is we're moving forward with our branding study with UVU and Wynn Jothrop. We had a committee meeting, and after we did a survey of the citizens of Payson, there were about 800 people responded to the survey. We had a lot of good feedback, and so we're going to do one more follow-up survey, and then we're going to wrap it up. And I think on tentatively have scheduled for the 16th of May to have Wynn come from UVU and present some of the findings that we have on our branding study. That's all I have.
I don't have anything. I'm good.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the scout attendance certificates. I see we have one scout, and we'll turn some time over to Councilwoman Carter.
Okay, and it looks like our one scout is Kelton Smith. So I'd like you to come up, Kelton. Congratulations. Come and stay and listen to all this. I want you to go and shake all the council members' hands. And then there's something else I want you to do. Kelton, come here for a minute.
Not off the hook yet.
Pardon me?
He's not off the hook yet.
No. There's something that we ask every one of the scout members that come. We want you to tell the audience what you like about scouting. What's your favorite thing?
Probably going camping.
Good, good. And you got good leaders?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to CTC Mayor's Youth Recognition Award, Kim Leffler.
We get Caden Ward to come up.
Okay, this is Caden Ward, and he is from Payson High School. His parents are Keith and Heidi Ward, and Caden is a senior at Payson High School who likes to go snowboarding or canyoneering in his free time or do any outdoor activity. He just loves to be out in nature. Caden says that his most important short-term goal is to pass all of his classes. In the future, he'd like to go to college so he can advance his education. He had this to say about his educational experience. All of the education I have received has shaped the ways that I think about things. I have learned how to think outside of the box and solve difficult problems. Caden participates in chamber orchestra and investigative science. His government teacher, Mr. Borges, said of Caden is great in class. He participates in class discussions and he turns in quality work. He is fun to have as a student. So congratulations, Caden. Okay, and the next one is Max Strebel. Come on up. Strebel? Strebel. I knew I was going to do it right. Okay, Max is from Payson Junior High, and they have several teachers that comment. So Mr. Archer said, Max always comes to class prepared with a great attitude. He is easy to get along with, is very respectful, and sets a good example for his peers. Mrs. Holt said, Max is always respectful and kind. He has a great sense of self-awareness and confidence, which is refreshing in someone his age. Max is a great mix of hard work and fun and excels in all he puts his mind to. Mrs. Hoffman said, Max is a gifted student who appears to apply his academic ability and critical thinking skills to his everyday interactions. He goes beyond the mark in any given assignment, and his work shows a deep level of thought and engagement. Max is comfortable and confident in situations that require collaboration with his peers and with adults. It has been a pleasure to have this opportunity to have him in class. And Mr. Ward said, I have had the pleasure of having Max in my social studies class the past 2 years. He has proven himself as a very good student. He has a very positive attitude and has participated well in class discussions. His interactions with other students and me as a teacher have always been appropriate. I wholeheartedly approve the nomination for Max for this award. So congratulations. And parents are welcome to walk up here and take pictures.
Sorry, I was on video. All right, there we go.
Cracking jokes.
Okay, we'll proceed. We've had a request, council and staff, to possibly go to resolution 9, just because the attorney is here. It could answer any questions after presentations are made. May we go to number 9?
I'll make an amendment or a motion that we amend the agenda.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll go to number 9.
So Mayor and Council, and especially the mayor and some of you that were more involved, we spent the last few months with some legislation up at the Capitol. We met several times with the other cities that we've been working with, as well as SESD tried to negotiate some issues during the legislative session. The end result of that is the legislation was, did not pass. The Representative Gibson said it would come back next year, but we'd have a year to try to resolve this. During the legislative session, there was some comments that this interlocal was not working, neither was the 98 stipulated agreement we had with SESD. And so we did prepare a resolution for action to terminate this agreement. It would be effective December because that's the anniversary date of the agreement. Approximately a month ago, we put it on the agenda. We were asked to take that off so that we could meet. I did meet with Mr. Nielsen at one time. We did put out to meet with the general manager for a bit. We did not get together. And we've had, as Jen's talked about, there's a legal counsel that helps them in this issue. We also have an attorney that's representing all 3 cities through this legislative process, and he's been also looking at the issues as well. But we put it back on the agenda. If you look at the resolution, we added a portion of the resolution that we are committed to continuing to negotiate with SESD, and we have from now until December, hopefully, to work out an alternate resolution. We have wanted to make sure that we get together with the other cities, and hopefully that if there's a resolution, it can be a resolution with all the cities so that we can move forward. And whether you develop in Spanish Fork or Salem or Payson, we would have similar rules. But you did get a letter that was emailed a few minutes before the meeting. They are requesting, as Jen's, when he stood up, that we keep this on, but we do not make a motion to terminate until we have a chance to get together. I talked to Liz, their counsel in Salt Lake, before the meeting. We have a tough time meeting with them next week because of the League of Cities meetings. It would probably be a week or two. But from Gary Dodge, our counsel with all the cities, and as talked with Mark and stuff, is that this, moving forward with this resolution, we still have an opportunity to negotiate with them, and we're willing to do that. So our recommendation at this point is to adopt the resolution of our intent to terminate this agreement in December on the anniversary date, but that we would continue to work with them. If you have questions, I think Mark, the accountant for SESD, is here, and Jen's is the local counsel here. If you have any questions for them, if you want any other things explored, but the resolution is before you if you choose to take that action.
So,
Council, any discussion?
yeah, a couple questions. So the 2011 agreement completely replaced the 98 agreement? I thought it was in addition to the 98 agreement.
Well,
or clarification.
In the agreement, it talks
Not
about
clarification, but
during the term of this interlocal, that would be put aside, that we would follow the interlocal.
But did the interlocal replace the 98 agreement, from your understanding?
While this agreement's in place, we would follow the interlocal and not the 98 agreement. That's the discussion I had with Ms. Brereton, their legal counsel, is because during the legislative session, it's like the 98 agreement doesn't apply to Payson. But my position was, well, if we terminate this agreement, then what? I think we fall back to the 98 agreement, but there's a question whether it goes to the 98 agreement or to the current state code, which I think the city's okay if we just revert back to the state code. But yes, in the agreement it says that during the term of this interlocal agreement that the 98 agreement would be set aside.
Any other? Yes. I have a question on the interlocal agreement. It looked at, and I can't pull it up right now, but if I remember right, there was a committee that was formed with the last part of it was 4 from SESD and 4 from Payson. Has that committee even met in the last 2-3 years, or I mean,
it hasn't met for quite some time? The when it was entered into in 2011, there were actually three committee members from Payson, 3 committee members from SESD, and then there was an at-large committee member, which was a county commissioner, if my understanding was right. He was an ex officio member, which really didn't vote unless there were a dispute or something. From 2011 to 2013, we met quite regularly, and there was a desire to add another person on each side. So that's where we had to form, and we put Councilman Skinner on that, and they put another board member on that. So yeah, it was 4 and 4. Plus, we were supposed to have an ex officio member to make an odd number. But we haven't met for quite some time.
So another question to go along with the history of this. Wasn't part of the original intent of this is to merge Payson Power with SESD? Was that kind of the reason this all came about, or was it something different?
Well, I think, and it's stated in there, I think their intent was to see if we could merge. One of the things that I think was one of the reasons that this hasn't worked so well is because I felt like we didn't allow the interlocal to work. Because I think that a week after we approved this agreement, we didn't talk about the agreement. It was talked about forming Heritage and merging, which this doesn't go that far. And there were issues. We had UAMPS come down to a couple of meetings to try to see if we could create Heritage, and there are certain issues that came up at the time, and it hasn't worked. But the intent of the interlocal is to see if we could work together with whether employees or equipment or other things to help move things along.
I just have a couple of comments on this. One, working through this, been with the legislature, where SESD's trying to override this, and then as far as I can understand, the Payson's the one that's been hard to work with, where we put together interlocal, that we put this off the agenda a month ago. So I would like to move forward and do away with this agreement that we have, and then move forward trying to see if there's something we can work out with SESD with the other 2 cities.
As mayor, I know I don't have a vote, but I would agree with that statement that it would be best to go ahead and do that and continue negotiations, but I believe it would be in best interest to do that. Any further discussion?
Trying to decide if I want to ask the question or not. Just out of curiosity, if Mark or Mr. Nelson can answer this, maybe. How did this bill come about? Like, why did it come about without any information or consultation with your neighboring cities?
Jens Nielsen. I'm not 100% sure I can answer that fully, but I think Dave explained well that, leading up until now, there just wasn't much working together like was anticipated in the beginning. And I think Councilmember Hewlett's comment about, Payson being difficult to work with, there was a lot of misinformation. I don't think the district feels Payson is difficult to work with. I think the district feels like Payson has some unique or difficult circumstances to work out that are different from, say, a number different from Spanish Fork. The reason that the legislation was brought up was because the 98 agreement, even more so I think than what Dave has explained with the interlocal, just has not functioned at all. So the district's position was, let's go forward under what the current law is, which has some provisions that are different than what they were in 98. The interlocal agreement really is a better situation, I think, for both cities. Now, again, I've only been working with the district for a couple of years, But, you know, Mark maybe can help me with this, and Dave too. If there is a question, if the interlocal is, you know, done away with, where are we after that? Are we at the 98? Are we at state law? Or I think the interlocal refers to a franchise agreement. Now, that's a legal question that, you know, I could give you my opinion on, but I don't know if it's accurate. But the legislation was an attempt to make something new happen, try to create a better situation.
So my question is, why did it go about that way versus a work session or a?
Sure. I think, you know, what you're saying is, you know, this was a bad way to go about this. And,
You're right.
I'm not saying that it wasn't. You know, like I said, all I'm saying is, I think the district felt like, look, we've kind of been trying this for all these years. Now, in hindsight, and I think the letter that you received even refers to this, you know, we should have got together and so, hey, we're sorry. I mean, you know.
It does say that Payson has been good to work with, and it points that out, but when we went to the state, we were pointed out by all the cities as being the one hard to work with, but your letter says
and like I said, I don't know exactly where that comes from. I don't think the district has said that Payson is, you know, more difficult than Spanish Fork or difficult to say. We probably had the best working relationship with Payson.
That's what we felt. But.
So, I don't know, Mark, you had something to add about the history there that I'm not as familiar with.
So, my name's Mark Holdaway. I am from Salem, Utah, and I work for SCSD. Been with them for about five and a half years. So in response, I think you have some good questions there, Doug. So part of the reason why SCSD passed the legislation, when you look, so what happened was back over the last few years, since I've been with the district, well, an example, last fall there was a lineman rodeo, and in that lineman rodeo, an employee, one of the cities who was there, came to our lineman and said, "Oh, you have such good linemen, it's just a shame that you're going away." And that's kind of impression we're getting from our neighboring cities, "Oh, you're just going away, you're just going away." And we've often felt like, well, why? We have something to contribute to this area. We have a good power system, and we've always felt if we can work with the neighboring cities, that power system in this whole entire area would be just phenomenal. We also know that with the 90 agreement, part of the challenge of this 90 agreement is whenever a developer comes into one of the cities, they often, you know, of course, when the city annexes, they need to reimburse SCSD for facilities and things like that. And there have been some instances in other cities where a developer looks and says, well, SCSD has power here, but yet I have to pay you for your facilities and then pay to get the city's infrastructure into this area. And I've known of at least a couple of cases where developers said, I changed my mind, I'm not going to do this anymore. And so we often felt, well, we want to change that. So we got looking at the state code, Title 10, and Title 54 that talks about electrical corporations. We're trying to define too, okay, how do we really fit? We're a public entity. The cities are public entities. How can we really make this fit? And so one thing we found was in Title 10-2-421, it calls SCSD a corporation. So one of the biggest things we want to do was to kind of change in the code, because some parts of the code identify SCSD as a corporation, other parts identify SCSD as not. So we wanted to kind of get things in the code to come together where SCSD was properly defined all the way through. And we felt like if we get a proper definition of SCSD, it would prevent a better way to kind of work with everyone. As far as the legislation, so idea was we would pass that. There was a paragraph in this legislation that said that if the cities annex into SCSD territory, that there would be a discussion as to who would best serve the power in that area. It didn't say that we would stop annexation. It didn't say that we would not allow the cities to serve in that annexation. It just stated that the SCSD and those cities would talk together to define who would be best serve that area, kind of like what the interlocal said. So, as Jen said, looking back, maybe it would have been better to have gone to the cities before we did this. Part of the reason I did is, as we spoke with our lobbyist who was helping us with the bill, he recommended that we not talk to the cities right away. Again, looking in hindsight, maybe that wasn't very good counsel at all. However, I think the biggest thing is, what we want to point out, this council, you'll make your decision what you want to do tonight, but really, we want to work together. The ultimate goal that we see, the best thing that could happen is a merger. Everybody coming together. We really feel like with the merger, we could offer things to Payson City with your power department. We could help reduce costs. We could help find the city find more money. And we feel like there's a lot of good people here in Payson City as well that we could definitely work with. So that's kind of what we're asking. And we apologize if we stepped on toes in the past. They've done things wrong. One thing that we found out through the legislative process is, even of ourselves, there's probably things that we can do different on our end as well to help improve relationships. And that's really what we want, is to improve relationships with our neighbors and hopefully move forward and everybody can find their proper place and we can just have a good system for everyone moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. So I have one question to follow up on that. You both said you felt like it was a mistake to kind of go this direction. When did you realize that? After it was tabled or during the process? Because during the process, it was never say, we'll pull us off the table so we can negotiate. It was, now I'm hearing it after it's tabled, and yeah, we made mistakes. So when did you?
That's a good question. One thing we didn't realize, when we first started the bill, we first felt like it wasn't going to be that big of a deal because the main intention was, again, to change in the code how we're defined. Rather than being a corporation, defined as a corporation, to be defined as a public entity. That was the biggest thing. And as the process went on, we found out there were some very strong feelings. We found out people, were very upset with us. And it's kind of during that time frame that we kind of started to feel like, well, okay, people are misunderstanding this. And we felt bad about the misunderstanding. We felt bad that, if we didn't intend for it to become as big a deal as what it did. So I guess during the process and after everything was done and it was tabled, we kind of sat back and looked and thought, okay, maybe we could have done things differently. But again, the bottom line that we really most want to do, we wanted to change the code so we could be properly defined. So as we negotiate with everyone moving forward, we understand who we are, everyone understands who we are, and we can hopefully really get a good power system in place for everyone moving forward. Jen, you can add if you want.
Well, I think that's.
Well, one of the problems that we had is that we didn't know anything about it till 2 or 3 or 4 days into the process, and so that's kind of a sneak attack, so to speak. But for my part, Spanish Fork and Salem has stood by us through this process. I think we need to go back to square one. I'll repeat, I think we need to go ahead and take the action on it tonight, and then honestly negotiate.
Thanks for moving this up the schedule to accommodate.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
I would just like to say something. I realize it's kind of like you're apologizing now. And what they went through, there's some feelings there. I look at the agreement and I look at it different than you guys because you don't know what you're going to get into when you get into another agreement. So you know what you've got right now. You don't know what's going to happen if you cancel this one. I'm for a person, I think we totally need to work it out.
I'm not sure that we know what we have right now. I mean, we
Well,
clearly haven't done anything for 3
and
years.
I think and that's another
I don't
thing.
think that's a clear
I
indication
think
that
we
we know
need
what we
to have-
have.
Go ahead and let
Sorry.
Councilwoman.
I think we need to have, like they had before, back in 2010 or 11 and 13, nobody's been together talking about this. I think had you had that committee together the whole time, I don't think we would be in this situation right now. But nobody knows where anybody's coming from. And that's how I feel about it, is things have changed in the last 4 years. And I know what explain it. That was a nice explanation because I didn't understand it either, what you guys were trying to do. I didn't understand where this was happening. The way you guys did it, I didn't appreciate that either. But we have an agreement. I would rather have an agreement than not have one, because at least we have somewhere to go from there. That's my feeling.
Sure. I think that's consistent with what we're saying, which is what we have is good. Probably better to keep what we have than start over.
Okay, I think we've discussed it to a point we need to go ahead and have a motion. Are we ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution 4-18-2018 approving the termination of the interlocal cooperative agreement between SCSB and Payson City, entered into February 16, 2011, with the understanding that we will actively try to negotiate with them, along with, I'm not committing Salem and Spanish Fork, but we will actually try to help go along with the other cities and negotiate with them.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, this calls for a roll call vote, starting with Councilwoman Hyatt.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, we'll go on with action item D, public hearing, vacation of Creekside subdivision, Plat B, Lot 29, and the Maples at Brookside, PDR amended, Plat C and D located at 881 West, 1350 South, and also at the same time, public hearing, final plat for Creekside subdivision, amended Plat C, located at 881 West and 1350 South. Daniel, go ahead.
Okay, that's a mouthful.
Yes.
So I guess by way of introduction here, when we sent out the notices to the neighbors, we received a good amount of feedback from neighbors. So I'm going to try to walk through this, anticipating that there's some people in the audience that are interested in what's going on here. At first it seemed clear to us as we dug into it a little bit deeper. It got kind of confusing, and now it's clear again. So we're going to try to make it clear to everyone here. So first of all, it's a request to vacate lot 29 from Creekside Plat B. So we're not changing Creekside Plat B except for removing lot 29 from that plat. With that, there are a few other parcels that will be combined, small parcels that will be combined with lot 29 to keep a single-family residential lot, which will be Plat C. That Plat C will also have the same development agreement, the same covenants that exist in Plat B applied to it in Plat C. So nothing will be changing except for some boundary lines. Parcel numbers have already changed, and really what we're doing is we're formalizing transactions that have already occurred, and I'll go through that. So here's what we're looking at. It's 881 West, 1350 South, where that star is. Zone is R19, single family residential. This lot already has a home built, so there's no changes there, and it's in the Creekside subdivision, Plat B. And when we sent the notices out, one thing that was a little confusing is the parcels in question that we'll get to have legal descriptions based on what they were called when they were created. So it's right on the boundary between two subdivisions. So we have Creekside Plat B on the north right there, and then Maples at Brookside Plat A. And so when we look at the parcels in this image on the right, that shows the single family home. That's the lot that we're vacating out of Creekside B. And then what we'll just call lots 2, 3, and 4. So these are really small little parcels, obviously non-buildable lots, just parceled out land. They all share the same parcel number right now. But the legal descriptions for, just the legal description for 4 says on it that it's part of Maples at Brookside. Digging into it a little bit more, we found out it's not part of the current subdivision. It was originally, before Maples at Brookside was even built, it was originally part of the subdivision. But by the time it was built, it was already not part of it. It's in the legal description for the land. So as we looked at it, we saw that they were parceled in 2002, so quite some time ago. It was actually part of the city land, so that city park that's to the west of the single family home. And so the city owned all that land. They sold little slivers of it to third-party individuals. And over time, those parcels have exchanged hands. Some of them have even changed property lines, and that's made it a little bit more difficult when we were doing the research. We were able to figure out these are little slivers that the city sold off. They've ended up all purchased by the owner of lot 29 right there, and they all share the same parcel number now. And so what we're doing today, again, is vacating out lot 29, combining it with the 3 parcels you see right there on the screen, and that's one combined lot that is now lot or Plat C. So let's see, that shows you a little more of where it's at, and then right here you can see Plat C. So you can see here lot 1. It's just one lot in it. That was the prior parcel that we're vacating out, combined with the 3 to the south. As part of this public utility easement, the proposal is to vacate the existing public utility easements that were around that prior lot and to establish a new public utility easement around the perimeter. However, I did receive feedback from one of the utility providers that CenturyLink, that they do have some facilities already in place in the public utility easement, and so we're going to need to work with the applicant and CenturyLink to either have those moved to the location of the new utility easement, or they can't be moved, or it's not cost efficient to move. We would amend where the easement is and keep the old easement and then add the new easement as well, if that will work for the applicant. So we still have that issue that needs to be ironed out. And so that's really about it. It's also important to mention, we were able to send out the notices to the neighborhood, but not to the paper in time. And so we'd like to have a public hearing today for any residents that showed up that would like to speak, recognizing that we are going to need to have the public hearing once that's in the paper. Also, we are going to need to work out the public utility easement as well. So we can't have a formal solution today, so it's going to need to be tabled to the next meeting. But we'd like to, if the council is willing to allow any residents that came out today to address, have their concerns addressed. So do you have any questions?
Okay. Council, would you like to open a public hearing on D1 and D2 at this time? Okay, entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Second? Travis? Second? Okay, the second motion passes. So we'll go ahead and open the...
You have to vote actually.
Okay, sorry.
I second. We didn't vote yet.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Good, we'll open it up then. For those that would like to talk, please step to the mic as we did in the public forum. Step to the mic, give your name and address and speak clearly, and please pay attention to being concise if you can.
Hi, my name is Jeff Miller, and I am the owner of this lot. I'm just trying to build a garage in the back, and didn't know it was going to be this difficult. So I can move I do have the means to move the cable lines if I have to, but I'm just trying to build a lot legally and build a garage legally and move forward with it.
Have any questions at all? Okay.
No,
We don't want to be a detriment to you either, so we'll try and move this along as fast as we can.
Yeah, I'm sorry this is taking probably been a hard process, but it will be nice to have one big lot for you where you have all those pieces in one piece. So.
yeah, that was the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Just trying to combine them into one.
Yeah.
And having enough usable space to build a sizable garage.
I'm confused as to why a property line adjustment wasn't viable here. Is there something I missed, or?
I'm in 2 different subdivisions. That's the problem right now we're having. One subdivision, even though it's drawn that way now, the lower half there is on the road side and on the creek side. So that's the issue on that.
So the only resolution is to make a third? I don't know. public hearing questions right now.
Dan said he could answer.
You can ask Daniel. Come on up, man.
If this were a meets and bounds lot, like if it weren't platted, then we would just do a boundary line adjustment. But because it's part of an existing plat, we would need to amend the plat or vacate it out of the plat. And so we could either amend the entire plat, or we can just create Plat C,
Which is the easiest way. Okay, well, that's all I need.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any further input from the public?
I'll make a motion, we close public hearing.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call vote. Aye.
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 Motion passes. We'll go ahead and just table that, right? Okay.
motion to table.
Oh, yes, okay. Motion, we have a motion to table.
I'll make a motion that we table both the vacation of Creekside subdivision and the final plat for Creekside subdivision.
We have a second.
Amendment plat C.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion that's been seconded. I believe we just do a roll call vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, we're going to number 3. Request to amend the Payson City zoning map that will affect Utah County parcels 30.029.0029 and 30.29029.0099. Going on 30.029.0121 and 30.029.0126. And the parcels in the Mountain View Estates development from the GC1 General Commercial and A5H Annexation Holding Zone to the I1 Light Industrial and the R17.5 Residential located west of 1140 East between 100 North and 400 North. Turn some time over to you, Jill.
Thank you, Mayor. We could just end with that. That's the presentation. I appreciate that introduction.
Sounds like a motion, but it wasn't.
No, yeah, so I will move to the next, just to show you where the mayor had mentioned that this project is located. So the applicant, Scott Phillips, has submitted a zone change request to rezone property in Payson. So this is SR 198. Headed towards Salem. Here to your right, we have Mountain View Hospital located here. You have existing residential development. Of course, we have commercial along the highway corridor. But the area that we're looking at, the majority of the property is vacant land. It's just been used for agricultural purposes over the years. But the zone change does include a request to rezone existing housing units in the Mountain View Estates development. And so that just shows the location of what we're looking at. I do have another map. This shows the zoning map. This is the zoning for all of the community. I have provided a little pop out of the area that we're talking about, showing that there is professional office, general commercial, there's agricultural land, there's residential in the area, but the area that we're looking at here, it's currently zoned commercial and the A5H annexation holding zone, as the mayor had mentioned. Here's another view of the site just to show the parcels that are proposed to be rezoned, because there are several parcels that are included in this request as indicated in your packet. So the properties that we're looking at, the applicant owns the parcels here and this parcel that's hatched in this area here. And so the applicant's request when he submitted the application to staff for review was, these are currently zoned general commercial zone all the way to the northern point of these parcels. So quite a ways removed from the highway corridor. The applicant is proposing to maintain commercial zoning along the highway, but then to rezone this general commercial zone to I1 light industrial to allow for the expansion of this existing storage unit facility here that is owned by the applicant. And so looking at expanding this use in this location, still maintaining the commercial corridor along the highway, which would be consistent with our general plan. And then for this area over here that's currently zoned agricultural, is wanting to rezone that to R175 to be consistent with the existing senior living development here, and that is actually what he's wanting to do with that property, is have it be developed into additional, or units for a 55+ community. So he's wanting to do something very similar with what's already in the area. But as staff was reviewing the applicant's proposal, we discovered, and well, actually we had known, but we recognized that the parcels or the properties in the Mountain View Estates subdivision are currently zoned GC1, so general commercial. So they are non-conforming uses, so non-conforming residential uses in a commercial zone. So it was a good opportunity to step back and approach the owners in the Mountain View Estates development to explain the situation, what a non-conforming use meant, and request of them if they had any concerns with us as staff adding on to this proposal to rezone their property from a commercial zone to a residential zone. And so I've got some more information with that as we move forward. So zone change considerations, a couple of things with zone change. It is a legislative decision of the City Council. And so what that means is that the City Council is not obligated to approve the request. We have applicants submit proposals all the time that may be consistent with or not consistent with our general plan, or it may just be a timing issue. And we may want to see properties continue as a certain use until our population demand increases or the agricultural uses aren't needed anymore. So there's a lot of reasons why you may or may not rezone properties, but it is a legislative decision, and so you're not obligated to approve it. But we do need to hear the request of an applicant before you make that decision, and then also hear from the public. We look with zone changes, is it this zone or is it this zone? And so we also look at, we need to look at the allowable uses of the property if the zoning is changed versus the anticipated uses, because there are times that a proposal will come in and say, this is what I'm going to do with the property. And if we're not looking at all of the uses that are allowed in that new zoning district, we may find ourselves, if the applicants, their plans change, we may end up with a use that we may not feel is appropriate in that location. This is actually something that is recognized by the applicant. With him rezoning that property to the I-1 zone, that would allow a lot of industrial uses in that area, some of which may not be complementary to or could create some negative impacts to the residential in the area. So the applicant has recognized that and has even indicated that he is willing to do a voluntary deed restriction on the property to ensure that with the I-1 zoning that it will only be used for storage units. I think is what even the concern that staff would have is that we would hate to move forward in the direction of storage units and then find out that we're going to have a factory in that area that could potentially negatively impact the neighborhood. And so again, the applicant does recognize that and is willing to go that extra step to ease the mind of staff, planning commissioners, city council members, and especially the neighbors. And approval of the zone change does not grant any type of development approval. But I did want to focus on this a little bit just because I failed to do this at the planning commission meeting. And I know that we do have some residents of the development adjacent to the site here. And so I just want to clarify. So with industrial and commercial zoning, if a proposal comes in on that property, it is reviewed and approved at a staff level. If it's a permitted use in the zone, it's reviewed at a staff level. It does not go to the planning commission, city council, so there's no additional public hearing or public meetings with that. I just want to make that very clear. Now, as far as the residential development, so the 55+ community, it does require review and action by the planning commission and city council. There's also a public hearing, and there's notification that is sent to property owners within the vicinity. And so I just want to clarify on that, you know, industrial or commercial development, if the zone change is approved, would just be done at the staff level. Another thing that the applicant has done is he has met with the owners or the property owners in the area to discuss his proposals and what he would like to do. So I personally don't see a concern with even this being done at the staff level. I think once a proposal's put together, you know, I would expect that the applicant would still meet with those neighbors and share his ideas with him as he puts those on paper. So just want to make some clarification there. So public input. Public input, we do have one, well, there's a couple of things that we did actually prior to the public hearing. Staff did reach out to the residents of the Mountain View Estates development because we didn't want it to be a surprise to them that their property was included in a zone change, and we wanted to hear from them initially before we took any steps to move in that direction. So I had an opportunity to meet with a lot of the residents of the Mountain View and even Rosewood development to discuss the proposal, try to answer any questions that they may have in preparation of this. The applicant has also communicated with those residents, has had meetings with them, one-on-one meetings or as a group, to discuss his proposal as well. And then we did have a public hearing with the Planning Commission, which was well attended by those, the property owners. So it was great to have that participation there. And then a copy of those minutes were included in your packet. So the Planning Commission held that public hearing, received public comment. Ultimately, they did recommend to the City Council that they approve the zone change as proposed, but wanted to see the deed restrictions in place for the storage units as well as the 55+ community. They felt like that was a very complementary use on that residential property, knowing that there's already a 55+ community in the area. So the City Council options. Before I skip past the public input, because the required public hearing is done and the City Council is not obligated to take additional comment tonight. I did just want to touch on some of the concerns that the residents did bring up. They will be sharing a property line with this industrial use, with these storage units, and so they did have some concerns with would the fence be replaced, how high the fence would be, what the fence would be constructed of, how close will buildings be, and so a lot of that, which you probably saw in the minutes, but that was addressed. There was also questions about easements and, would there be any gaps between the industrial development and the residential development that maybe individuals can get in, there may be some mischief happening in that area, and so the applicant has taken note of that as well. And then also, there has been some additional development in that area recently with the construction of the Wasatch Mental Health Office building, and recognizing that there's been a sewer lift station that has been constructed in the area. There's even been some questions there about because they're currently on their own privately owned lift station, and so there was some questions about whether or not they could connect into this facility. And so we have directed them to talk with the city engineer about the possibilities of connecting onto that sewer line.
Quick question on that, Jill. I thought that when we were discussing that in the first place, that was one of the things that we wanted to be able to do, is be able to have these people be able to tie into that.
I thought we did too.
Yes, absolutely. I was just referring them to the city engineer because I don't know the steps in order for them to move forward to make that happen.
Okay.
So I was not the best person to provide that answer. But yes, you are absolutely correct. When we did size that, or when we were looking at designing that and sizing that facility, we did take into account the Rosewood Estates and the Mountain View Estates developments, so we could get them off of that private lift station. So yes, I thank you for the clarification. So, and then finally, City Council options, you remand it back to staff or the Planning Commission for further review. If there's new information that is provided tonight that you feel needs to be discussed in further detail, you can approve it. That was the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Of course, they did want to see the deed restrictions as well, or you could recommend, or you could deny the application because it is a legislative decision. And then lastly, any motion of the City Council should include findings that indicate reasonable conclusions for the decision. And then the last one with the zone change must be completed by ordinance. I know that Kim worked diligently to prepare an ordinance because I failed to put something into the packet. She has prepared something. I'm planning on putting on your consent agenda for the next meeting so we can include some legal descriptions as well. So we'll probably take what Kim has prepared, add some legal descriptions, and put on your consent agenda at the next meeting, but it does have to be completed by ordinance. So with that, Mayor, that is the end of my presentation. The applicant, Scott Phillips, is here. I'm not sure if he has a presentation, or he's probably just here to answer any questions that you may have.
I need to make one comment. I have a business relationship with the applicant, but I'm not planning on recusing myself, so.
Is there any discussion or any questions of Jill or the applicant? Okay, thank you, Jill. Okay, I guess we're to the point where we can accept a motion on this change of zoning.
I guess I do have one question. I know that the planning and zoning wanted the restrictions on the storage units, and I think that's great. But on the subdivision, that's going to have to come back to city council and everything anyway. So he can't just go in. And so is there really a reason to put a restriction on that? Because it's.
I think more for the comfort of the residents in that area, because part of their concern was, at least when I had met with their HOA or some of the members or the residents in that development, was they were concerned of this being developed in a way that it was for families and young families, because right now, I mean, they live on this quiet street. You know, it's a very well-knit community out here between those two subdivisions. And, you know, I felt like, and, you know, maybe they would disagree with me, but I felt like they were more supportive of the applicant's proposal because it was 55 plus. Because they were concerned of having it be just a typical residential subdivision where there may be other activities occurring that may not be consistent with what's happening with the retired population. And I don't know if that's correct.
I'm not fine with it. Go ahead. Come on up, drop the microphone, we did this real quickly, thank you.
I'm Sandra Clayton, I live in the HOA Mountain View Estates. I have one question. The commercial property that'll be right behind our condos that's on the highway, can that be any commercial? Or is it, I mean, could it be a gas station?
I think part of that is he's already said that he will sign a thing on the deed that will not allow other uses other than what has been specified.
Not the very front
on the
piece.
commercial, on the front
The
piece.
very, very front.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that's already zoned that way anyway. We aren't changing the zone on that, so that's already there.
Okay, so would it have to come here before anything was
If it's a
built there?
conforming use, it wouldn't. Yeah, so if it fits what it's already zoned for and what your properties are zoned for.
And Sandra, I can help you with that. I can
Yeah.
I can give you a list
All
of
right.
uses that would.
That
be
was just a concern
Yeah.
because it's right on our property. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
It's probably gonna be on the other side as well, though. Just FYI, the other direction,
It's over here.
right there, will end up with the same type of development.
That's all zone commercial, right, Jill?
So
That piece.
this parcel, the subdivision of Wasatch Mental Health is currently zoned professional office.
Okay.
This is still
That's still
zoned
commercial?
agriculture.
Oh,
Agriculture,
okay, so that might not be.
Yeah, and I have not had a chance to talk with the homes to see if they have any immediate plans for development or to even find out their feelings on this proposal, but they're currently agriculture and we haven't received a request to change that.
Any further discussion? Okay, I guess we're ready for a motion on the zone changes that we've talked about.
I'll make a motion that we approve the zoning map change for the Utah parcel, the parcels mentioned here, 29, 99, 121, 126. The Mountain View Estates Development and changing the GC1 to the where do we change GC1 to the?
They're all listed in your packet. It may just be, I mean, if you just
But
want
it's
to
just
say
the residential
to include the
findings.
zoning as proposed in the spreadsheet
Okay.
and the staff report make it easier because there are multiple.
The zoning and the spreadsheet.
Don't read all the numbers like I did.
And then change the one part to light industrial, and then the other two, the 55 and older, and make those as a voluntary deed restriction on the deed, and include findings, staff findings.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
It's been, a motion's been made and seconded. This will be a roll call vote, starting with Councilman Christensen.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to number 4, modification to the preliminary plan layout for Springside Meadows development, a planned residential development located generally east of SR 198 and west of the Highline Canal between 1800 South and 2000 South. You're up again, Jill.
Thank you, Mayor. This just shows a view of the property where, well, I guess some of the extension of the Springside Meadows development. As some of you are aware, we've already completed the first 4 plats as a Springside Meadows development, but it is a large master plan community that Salisbury Homes has property for and is continuing to move forward. So a little bit of background. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because we have reviewed Springside Meadows on a number of occasions, but just for the benefit of the residents that are here. So the Mauer Addition annexation, which includes the property that the applicant owns, was about 110 acres that was located on the southern end of Payson City. So this is Spring Lake Elementary School. You have the Highline Canal that comes here along the hillside, the mountainside. This is SR 198 towards south going to Santa Quinn. So this just shows you the general area. We've had a lot of, in the last 15 years, we've had a lot of residential growth in this area, and the applicant is just looking at continuing extending those utilities and providing additional housing opportunities in our community. So the first 4 plats that have been approved and have been constructed are up in this in the northeast corner of the development, and the applicant's property does continue down all the way down to SR 198. So there was a specific plan that was approved as part of the annexation. That's what's shown here. It shows a variety of shows mostly residential, but a variety of densities. So different lot sizes, different housing products, with a concentration with a lot of multifamily here in the center near to the school. So there was a large density range on this area, from anywhere from 327 to 449 units in this master plan area. And so the applicant is only improving a portion of that, but he is below those density ranges. Actually, this is just the density ranges for the properties that he owns. So there are some specific requirements for the uses and densities in that plan that we've been working very closely with the applicant in order to make sure that those are satisfied. There has been some past approvals, like I mentioned. Preliminary plan has been granted for the entire development back in 2006. There's been a number of iterations of that plan that have changed over the time, depending on the market. As the market has changed, they've actually come in and made some adjustments. And they have final plat approval and homes built in that northeast corner, as I mentioned. But there's been a variety of redesigns over the years, and the applicant is wanting to move forward with this proposal. So just even as recently as last year, the applicant came in and made some additional adjustments. The market is supporting larger lots. And so he came in and drastically changed the density from what was approved in the 2006 plan. And so they included a lot of larger lots up on the hillside along the canal, and then down here on the southwest portion of the property. And so that was approved in 2017. It included 85 townhome units, 167 single family, and then there was approximately close to 6 acres of property that would be dedicated to Payson City to be used for open space, and a fire station location, and a substation location. So the applicant has worked with us closely on that, and we appreciate his willingness to assist in our efforts with our government facilities. So 2018, so there have been some changes that are made, and so it does require us to go back through the Planning Commission, City Council, because it is changing the preliminary plan. So this is just a little overview of what the applicant is requesting to be changed. So the townhome units are up 89, so the townhome units are up by 4. Single family is 168. So they've increased the overall density by 5 units total. So 4 townhome units and 1 single family home. And then the public use area still remains the same. Actually, well, I guess I'll get to that here. So the proposed changes are increasing the density by 5 units. They are also changing the way that they're addressing their storm drainage, because one of the concerns that staff had was the design of the storm drainage basin here, because this is the open space and the government use area. And a good portion of that park space was going to be used for storm drainage pond. And so it wasn't very usable. And so working closely with the applicant to look at some other creative solutions, they're actually looking at doing an LID, so a low impact development design with their storm drainage, so that storm drainage will be taken care of intermittently throughout each of these phases instead of piping everything and just having all of the water go to one location. So it's actually going to allow that park space that will be publicly owned and used, it's going to allow that to be more usable. So along this long story, with this development, there's been a lot of good improvements that have been made, and I know the council's even recognized that in the past, especially with the applicant incorporating larger lots in our community. And then all public streets. So some of the proposals in the past were showing that even in townhome areas that they would have private streets. They looked at having little offshoots off of the road and having little private access ways like we have in some other developments. They have modified their development that they will be all public streets. They will meet the standards of Payson City. The townhome area will be reduced down to the 30 feet, but that's consistent with what's being proposed with the changes to our street cross sections. And then probably the most significant change with this is the applicant's request to have direct access onto Main Street and 2000 South. Now, Main Street and 2000 South are arterial status streets, so we try to limit the number of access points, whether it's intersection or driveway. We want to limit those on those streets because those streets are designed to carry a higher volume of traffic. And so the applicant, looking at going back, evaluating all the comments that he's received from council members in the past, staff in the past, because we've gone from everything from, having front load homes with private access ways to having all rear yards along that, that corridor. So we've considered a lot of different things, and the applicant has determined that the best option for this corridor is to have those home front facing, but recognizes the concern of staff and the Planning Commission City Council of having that additional direct access. So the applicant is wanting to include circular driveways, so all of those homes that will face those arterial status streets, they will design them in a way to have a circular driveway. And so it provides the residents the opportunity to enter the roadway front facing. And so it doesn't mean that you still won't have a resident here that's going to back into the roadway, but we're trying to find a good solution to provide a safe entrance and exit from that road, for the traveling public or for those, those residents entering that roadway. The applicant has also discussed, for all of those homes along there about, and staff would agree, strongly encouraging all of those homes to be side low garage, to also encourage, for them to, drive out, turn, and enter the road forward facing. So that would involve 33 lots along that corridor, if you would have those additional access points there. This is the phasing plan that the applicant has provided. Plat D was recently approved. They have been installing utilities and preparing that plat for the construction of homes. And then the applicant has submitted the final drawings for Phase E, which will come to the City Council in, I think, 2 meetings from now. And so that is moving forward. The applicant from that time wants to jump down here, down to phases G and H and down in this area because that is the hot market right now and with those larger lots. And so still wants to continue with very similar product that what we have up here. So have a couple of different price points going at the same time of development there. This is the housing product that they're proposing. So they have them by phase. And so these are typical homes that you would see along the Highline Canal, so those larger lots down by the park. These would be a product that they would promote in that area on those larger lots. So these are your custom phases G, H, L, and M. So those are your lots along 2000 South. That this is a similar product that they would build in that location. There's some more in those same phases, so they do have a lot of variety. They also, you know, and this is something the applicant has mentioned, is that there's always a favorite floor plan. You know, and we've seen that in a lot of different subdivisions. There's a favorite floor plan and everyone wants the same one, but you don't want houses to look exactly the same. And so the applicant has discussed with staff about, you know, if the front elevation needs to change, if they do find that they have a favorite and you're going to have 5 homes, you know, in a row, we want to make sure that the elevation is varied enough that it doesn't look like, you know, tract housing. So, but they do provide a lot of variety, you know, different home styles, as you can see there. Now, the traditional phases E and F, these are the lots west of Main Street. So this would be your phase. So immediately south of what they're developing now, and you know, phases E and F, these are the style of homes that will be there. So one of the reasons the applicant is providing this is because one of the primary elements of the specific plan is creating a variety of neighborhoods. And so we don't want to see just the same home across 60 acres. We want to make sure that we're creating different neighborhoods, different housing opportunities to create a really successful neighborhood. And so that's the reason for providing these different, you know, different phases of homes to show that they will incorporate the neighborhood concept as anticipated by the specific plan. And then the townhome phase, this shows you that they will have 2-car garages there, but you know, they do have some different products that that they're considering to put into the Payson project. So we're excited about that. Other items that will need to be addressed at final plat. So right now, when we're looking at the preliminary layout, we're looking at just the general layout, the utilities, trails and open space, all that. There's still a lot of detail that we will review when the final plans are submitted, and that will come back to the Planning Commission and City Council phase by phase, or even a recent conversation with the applicant is maybe that we may bring those plans back for a majority of the project instead of doing it in the smaller phases. So there's still some engineering technical details that will need to be reviewed. They still have to comply with all city regulations. Just because we've changed the preliminary layout approval slightly, the process slightly, still need to make sure that everyone understands that they still have to comply with all city regulations. RV parking and storage will be addressed phase by phase. That was one of the conditions that the City Council put on this project last year, is that some neighborhoods are going to need RV parking, others may not. Instead of having a one blanket requirement for the entire development, we felt it would probably be better to consider the RV parking and storage phase by phase. So that will be done when they come back for final plat approval. Open space, trail. One thing I do want to point out, they are showing typical here. There will be 5-foot sidewalks throughout the entire development, both sides of the road. So they're showing the typical there. They are showing also that they will continue the citywide trail system. We do show a public trail system on our Trails Master Plan for this area. The Bonneville Shoreline Trail is anticipated to go along the Highline Corridor, so we want to show a neighborhood connector. The applicant did point out at the Planning Commission meeting that there's already a foot trail there right now. So that's why they anticipated that this would be the neighborhood connector from that future regional trail system down into the development, is because there's already something that's that's there at this point in time. But showing that the trail will continue along the high pressure gas line and continuing out here. The only thing I wanted to note is that it's showing an 8-foot trail system, and our current standard is a 10-foot trail. Whether or not the neighborhood connector can be smaller, those are the details that we'll discuss in the final plat approval, but did want to point that out. But there's a lot of irrigation facilities in this location, so the applicants put a lot of effort into that because it is farmland now, and we need to make sure that any irrigation facilities that need to remain in order to serve downstream users, that they are protected through this this process. So they have provided an overall irrigation plan of where those facilities are, and we'll work closely with the applicant on that as well. And then I just wanted to make a final note, which I know Travis had brought this up to you, I believe at your last meeting. But just in the event that any of you had a chance to go out and look at the property and wonder why there's construction going on, I mean in the general area, is the applicant is currently installing off-site sewer improvements in order to provide service for this development. That is another reason why this project has not moved forward as fast as the applicant probably would like, but there's a significant investment that needed to be done with that off-site sewer in order to provide service to this development. So that is happening at this time in anticipation of completing Plat D, which has already been approved, and the impending approval of Plat E, which will come to you soon.
Jill, I got one quick
Yes.
question on the sewer.
Yes.
One is I'll be very happy when it's done, so I don't have to detour around it every day. So, but I'm glad it's going in. But the other is by the elementary school. There's like 3 or 4 lots in there that haven't ever had access to sewer. Is that going to resolve that for them or not?
So you're talking about these
Travis?
parcels right here.
Yeah, right in there. There's like 3 or 4 of them.
Yep.
We as a city have talked with them about that, and obviously that would be our cost to attach that, but I have to talk to Jeff if he's figured that out yet, but we have looked at that possibility once the sewer's in the area to try and hook onto it, so.
So it's technically probably possible.
I definitely, yeah, it's possible, we just have to we'd have to realign it a little bit.
Yeah.
So with that, the last slide that I have is just a required approvals, just as a summary. They're looking at preliminary layout at this time, so they're looking at the increase in the density, the street layout and lot access, so specifically those the access to the arterial streets with the circular drive, general layout utilities, which staff is supportive of, open space and trails, housing product and materials. Final plat, the approval last year was that the final plat, because we didn't have all of the engineering completed, that the final plat will be considered by the planning commission as well, which is not typical. Usually the final plat only comes back to this body, but the motion was for it to get a recommendation from the planning commission before the city council made a final decision. And public hearings, the required public hearings have been completed. And so, you know, if there's still concerned residents or property owners, staff will definitely do our best to provide them provide the clarification or the information that they need, but the public hearing requirement has been met. There'll have to be a development agreement put in place, and then also because the applicant is putting in some off-site sewer improvements, he would like to see some reimbursement from that if other developments choose to connect onto that. And so once those improvements are done and we know what those actual costs are, we will come back to the city council for approval of an extension of or a utility services agreement to allow for that reimbursement within a certain time period. And then lastly, action by the city council, remand it back to planning commissioner staff if you feel like additional review is necessary, approve with conditions which is consistent with the planning commission recommendation, or deny the proposed modifications to the overall preliminary layout. And then once again, findings. So Mayor, that is my presentation. Probably took longer than everyone needed, but and then the applicant, Mike DeMarco, later, unless the council has any questions for me before we turn the time over to him.
What is your recommendation? I think I know what it is, but what would the staff's recommendation?
Staff's recommendation is to approve the request. We've worked very closely with them on the design of those circular driveways. We've actually had it modified a couple of times to make sure that we felt comfortable with trying to address the backing into traffic. And so the 5 years, staff didn't have much concern with that either, recognizing the original lot count that the applicant had initially, but they feel like this is a better layout with those additional units.
We appreciate your staff's work and the applicant's ability to work with you. Appreciate it very much.
Can I ask you something? Okay, so I've been looking at this. I thought we were trying to get away from the garage that comes clear out. Is that a possibility to push them back?
We have talked about that. We do not currently, with the exception of the new infill tool that we did with the design guidelines, we currently do not have design guide, or residential design guidelines for these neighborhoods. I know the applicant provides a lot of product. Some of those are, the garage is very prominent, others they are not. I don't know if the applicant, wants to address that, but we currently, I guess you could say we can ask, but we couldn't require. But that's something that we do need to discuss, citywide, if that's a direction we want.
Well, because when we talked about it when you're walking down, I mean, you see that's what we, even in planning and zoning, we've talked about it, how you're walking down and all you see is the garage, and you don't look in to see the front of the house. You don't see that. You're looking at the garage and thinking, is there going to be a dog on this side or somebody over here? That's how I do. When I'm walking down, I'm thinking, I wonder if they have a dog, because I can't see it. That's why I liked that idea that it was back farther. So when you see it, you see the front of the house and not the garage.
Of the house, and yes. So.
Okay, council, any further discussion? We need Mr. DeMarco to come up and give us any information.
I do have one question for Jill. Is you had something on planning and zoning conditions. What were those conditions? I missed that.
I think.
Go back one. If you go back one slide, or maybe forward.
Well, I thought it was forward. Let me see.
Because you had in there approve it, deny it, or approve with the.
It was just approved with conditions, and that's what the planning commission recommended. Was approved with conditions.
Approved with conditions, right. But there weren't any specific conditions. Okay.
No, and actually, I can read the motion. So Commissioner Frisbee to recommend to the City Council approval of the modification to the Springside Meadows subdivision, specifically the increased density, access to arterial streets, with conditions that meet all staff recommendations, and that the final plat be brought back before the Planning Commission for final review, and any other conditions of the 2017 approval stand as is. So they did reaffirm the 2017 approval with just those few exceptions.
Any further discussion? Question? We're ready for a motion.
I do agree with Teresa that if it's possible, we'd love to not have garages out front, but I understand and wouldn't require that, but if it could be done.
And then Mike, did you want to address the council on anything? Or?
Unless you have any specific questions for me, I know I've been here before.
Yeah.
Appreciate everybody's time.
Appreciate you being here.
You're in the dark. I know. I'm going to turn
I like it back here.
Oh, there we go. Surprise.
Whoops. Okay.
I'm awfully dirty, but off the outside.
And it is muddy.
Yeah. Okay, council, if there's no other discussion, are we ready for a motion? I'll accept one.
Linda, you have this one?
No, go ahead.
Where is it? I gotta find it.
It's not on there.
I know.
Can I borrow your paper? Just read you want to read the one that the planning commission did?
Where's the motion? Let me make sure we get it right. Brett's got it.
I got it.
I'd like to propose a motion to recommend the city council. Oh wait, here just a second. Got to modify this a little bit. I need to approve the modifications to the Springside Meadows subdivision, specifically the increased density, access to arterial streets, with conditions it meets all staff recommendations, that the final plat be brought back before the Planning Commission for final review, and any other conditions of the 2017 approval stand as is.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and seconded. We'll do a roll call starting with Councilwoman Hyatt.
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Thank you.
Moving on to number 5, resolution amendment to the Payson City construction specifications, standards, and drawings, street cross sections. Travis. Oh.
Dan. Mayor and council, we're here tonight to discuss
amendments to the Payson City standards and specifications, specifically standards and straight cross sections. A little history on this, it evolved through meetings with all of the private utility holders. Travis and I met with literally all of the private carriers, gas companies, phones, all the communications people, in an attempt to find a comfortable space for each entity, which generally is behind the sidewalk. Nobody wants to be under it or in the planter strip. So we outline, as you can see, if he gets up, you can see a standard cross section in your packet that we specifically excuse me, address sublocal multifamily designation with residential, collector, arterial, infill lots, mountain and hillside zones, and the A5H. Not a lot has changed actually with the overall cross section. It just more clearly defines what we're doing inside of that same right of way, if that makes sense. It's very straightforward. If down at the bottom left, you can see how each of the private entities fit inside of that right of way. As I stated, everybody wants their own little zone for their issues. Gas, fiber optics, cable, and telephone. Then you got gas meters, water meters, PI connections, hydrants, crump stumps, switches, all the good stuff. It's got to fit in there. Transformer. So, he loves them, everybody hates them.
He's not here today.
He's used to it. So, anyway, one other specific change that I wanted to note is number one is the 30-foot designation as a minimum. We have a lot of developers trying to cram 20 and 24-foot roads into our system, and they do not work. So we're specifying a 30-foot minimum, except for in the mountain and hillside zones where we have a little different geographical problem. So I wanted to make that note, and then we do address in the detail total thickness. Currently, we have a 1-inch overlay at 90% build out. Fails miserably. We have an option if we have a development go bankrupt, we get left holding the bag. So what we're proposing with this amendment is to do the full depth of the pavement with a slurry seal, an asphalt sealant at 90% build out. So that is a somewhat of a change. If there's any question, I'd be glad to go into more detail.
It's just more work for the developer.
No, it actually, honestly, it saves everybody a little bit of money and time. They don't have to be mowed, they don't have the time lapse, and you don't have, they have more guarantee that everything is done correctly. Before, and all the utilities are certified to be, what they have to do. If there were, after the full depth was laid, if there was a problem, the corp didn't get turned on or whatnot, and they had to cut, they still have the ability to crack seal and slurry seal after the fact. It's just more of the safeguards for the city once that total depth is met.
And we're taking performance bond, right, for a year after everything's all done?
Yeah, because like a good example right now is like Temple Rim. It's been done for a year and a half to almost 2 years. Because they haven't reached 90%, that overlay's not done, so the cost of asphalt's more now than it was when they started, and so that's always the issue. And like my subdivision, it's now 14, 15 years old, and it's never been overlaid, because the developer's bankrupt and gone. And what was left in the bond will not even come close to covering what that is.
So that's a two-way street. It protects us, and it facilitates a better product out of the developer. So. That's it in a nutshell, unless Mayor and Council have any specific questions.
Is there a reason for the 6-foot wide planters? I kind of worry a little bit about that personally, but
It's actually more conducive to grow things. If you go any narrower, they won't maintain it.
I've also heard that there's a lot of water wasted in those planter strips. But I don't have any verification of those, or it's just hearsay.
You could look at Xeriscape. There's a lot of things that can be looked at. The other thing is with the LIDs. That gives us an avenue to stick some low impact development, our tanks and some of the storm drain issues in that. It gives us more available space.
I mean, it would be easier to water a 6-foot planter than a 3-foot planter, so.
And you don't people don't get mad at you for putting snow on their sidewalks in the winter.
Sold me.
There's a number of reasons with why that 6-foot snow removal is one. Some of the newer, as I mentioned with the LIDs, there's stuff in our tanks and storm drain issues and swells and whatnot in that 6-foot. So, like I say, it's a good situation for the city and the developers and the residents ultimately.
Okay, council, are you ready for a motion? Do you want to discuss it more?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'd make a motion that we adopt resolution number 0418-2018, a resolution amending the Payson City supplemental document to the 2012 APWA amended construction specifications, standards, and drawings.
A second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Roll call, starting with Councilman Christensen.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to number 6, ordinance amendment to Title 10, water ordinance.
Yeah, I've got that one, Mayor.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
So this one's really easy. We found out we had 2 zones that weren't in our water transfer requirement calculations. So it was the R115 and R120. So obviously, Debbie, if we get a request in those zones so that we actually had a water calculation for her to use, that's what we just added. So we just went through and added those 2 numbers in for PI and culinary use so that she had something to use when somebody asks her how much water they have to transfer. So that in a nutshell is the very quick version of why we brought this before you. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but we realized for whatever reason they had never got added in when we added those zones in, so.
I do have a question, Travis, and maybe I'm reading this wrong, but when we go up to 20, basically it's 20 units per acre, right? The R1.
No, that's the lot size.
So saying it's a.
So like, in R18, you gotta have a minimum of an 8,000 square foot lot, 7.5 is minimum of 7,500. So it's based on the lot size, not the units per acre.
Okay. So is the 20 a smaller?
So it's a 20,000 square foot lot.
Also, it's a big lot. Okay.
Yeah. So that's why the PI usage goes up. The bigger the lot, the PI usage goes up, then obviously the culinary changes because obviously you're not getting as many units per acre with the bigger lot. So that's why if it looks like one goes up, one goes down depending on the lot size. So.
I make a motion?
Sure, we got nothing going on.
3, yeah. Better have everybody vote for it. I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 4/18/2018, ordinance amending the specifications of chapter 10.6 of title 10, water ordinance of the Payson City Code, improving an effective date is up today.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, do we need to wait or can we just go ahead and vote?
We can vote. You can go ahead and vote. But like it was indicated, if it's unanimous, you've got a majority of those here.
Okay. We'll do a roll call, starting with Councilwoman Carter.
Aye.
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 Motion, we just carried a motion without you. Okay. We'll move on to number 7, ordinance. That's the amendment to Title II, Municipal Government Ordinance.
Just as a preface to this is a matter that came in front of the City Council back in December of last year. The council tabled it until the new elected members were on board, and we brought that back at this point in time. There's something unique about this ordinance, and let me just read what the state code indicates. Is adopting an ordinance under these sections. You're authorized to remove or reinstate duties for the mayor or duties for the city manager. In doing so, there has to be an affirmative vote by the mayor and a majority of all other council members, or all council members except for the mayor. So the mayor votes on this matter in any case, but those are the, it causes a supermajority, if you will, if the mayor votes against it. We're looking at Title II of the City Council Code, and there's two chapters that it's dealing with, the city manager chapter and the mayor chapter. The red line in red was what was done back in November, December. The red line in blue was added through discussions with the mayor and Dave, and also the mayor wanted to touch bases with the league's attorney, and that's Dave Church. And after discussing that, there were no changes to the proposed amendments. Dave reviewed both the red and blue portions. It was originally brought forward by Councilman Hyatt or Hewlett, and I think the mayor and Councilman Hewlett has asked to have it brought back at this point in time.
And I'd just like everyone to know that I have been fully invested in this, and every step of the way I have no problem with it. It just needed some clarification. I looked at quite a few mayor and city administrator or city manager ordinances in the surrounding communities, and we're pretty much on the same page.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank Mayor Wright for working on this, because I think it's important going forward. And I'm not concerned about Mayor Wright, but going forward, if there's any ever problems, because there's some conflicting items in this, so this will clear this up and make it good for the future. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, are we ready for any further discussion?
So is this largely the same thing that we had in November? Like I'm looking, I see a bunch of red lines. I don't see any blue lines. Oh.
There are, I don't know what, I copied mine off. I can hand you.
I'm just looking at my packet, and I've got red lines on the side, but I don't have any blue.
There are red lines on the city manager's portion, but on the mayor's portion, there are also blue lines. I can go over that if you'd like.
But just what's different from November to now? Because they're all red lines for me.
In the mayor's portion, the difference was that in paragraph 4, it talks about the mayor has to remit any fines, or he shall remit any fines or forfeitures, and that's been changed to may. So he may remit any fines or forfeitures, and as a preface to that, or a follow-up to that, that's on any city ordinances. He can't control anything that's state, so he can't remit your speeding ticket. That's a state issue.
Dang it.
Those type of things. And I wasn't
That kind of
talking
joke
personally, I was just using that as an example. It indicated that the mayor shall or cause a designee to, that or cause a designee to was struck. So he shall report any remittances to the governing body. And these are all state a mirror of what the state law.
And that's what, frankly, why I wanted Dave Church to be there and take it.
And the next one is the mayor shall perform all duties prescribed by, and it says statute, and it takes out just law, and so it says statute, municipal ordinance, or resolution. So it gives a little more definition there. Mayor shall ensure that all applicable statutes and municipal ordinances and resolutions are faithfully executed and observed. And those other portions are struck out, so it just reads well.
I actually figured it out. I have to click on the little red things and then it opens everything up.
Any questions on any of the
If
other
you're looking for it.
blue lines?
I just have a question. So if we take some of these things and give them to Dave, can we give them back to the mayor?
Oh, yeah. We've done, historically, it's gone back and forth, I think, twice or three times, Dave. Changing of duties and city manager, back and forth, historically.
I don't think we're taking.
Yeah, we're not.
We're just clarifying is basically what I understand.
There's no rules of.
That's true.
Yeah, I think the mayor can do pretty much what the mayor's done, but it's not, there was some overlap, and we're just trying to get rid of the overlap. So if one says, well, this is what it says here on the mayor, and here's what it says on the city manager, and they overlap, what is it really saying? So.
As I read that was the main thing that I wanted to just make it clear and clarify what the role is and what it's not. Still a chief executive of the city, so.
Yes.
I'll make a motion then that we approve ordinance 418, 2018, ordinance amending the various sections of Title II municipal government and an ordinance of the Payson City Code, effective date of today.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We'll do a roll call vote, starting with Councilwoman Hyatt, if you can do it. Stop coughing. Aye.
I,
I guess I get to say aye too. Not used to that. Okay, we'll move on to number 8, selection of a project for the 2018 Municipal Recreation Grant. I guess that's you, Jill?
Yeah, I thought it was done, sorry.
Okay.
No, this project, every year, we receive notice from Utah County that we are eligible to apply for grant money to be used for tourism and recreation in our community. So is what we have done in the past is we take that grant to our Development Review Committee, which includes a lot of different departments that could be eligible to use that money. And we try to bounce it around from department to department, so it's not always going to the same. So we've used it at the petite meet, we've used it at the golf course, we've used it for our trail system, we've used it for parks, we've used it, so we've used it for the swimming pools, so we've used it for a number of things. This year, as we took it to the group we've used it for promotion also. We've done the promotional rack cards, we've done the commercial, the Payson commercial, we did the sign downtown, we used the money towards that. So there's been a lot of things that we've taken advantage of with that money. But when we took it to the group this year, the group felt like using that money towards buying picnic tables for the new pavilion that we're building in Memorial Park would probably be a good use of that money. And so I know we've had a lot of focus on building the structure itself, but not necessarily the amenities or the facilities that will be beneath that structure. And so it is proposed by staff that the city council approve applying for that money for the picnic tables for the new pavilion in Memorial Park.
Any discussion?
Let's do it.
Okay, I need a motion then.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we were all on board before we get along. So, all right, I make the motion that we approve resolution 418, 2018, authorizing staff to submit an application for a restaurant tax to help assist in the purchasing of picnic tables for Memorial Park Pavilion, and authorize the mayor to sign the application.
Okay.
I'll second, but I think Brad has a question.
And I think Linda May. Oh, that's why I put that out there. That's why you're supposed to ask a question.
You talk too fast, I tried to catch
Trying
up.
to speed this meeting up, man.
Yeah, they did have a second. Am I okay to ask
Yeah,
a quick question? Revert back a little bit. I just, as we were talking about the pavilion and its purposes, I worry that the wrong kind of picnic benches in there might cause problems. I just want to make sure that because if it's used as a serving line you don't want the benches attached to it, and that's kind of where I had a concern. Yeah.
They'd have to be moved.
Or
And I
the
know
tables
Mark's-
could be movable.
The tables could be moved out, but you also want to fold them down, and so I just I want that thought process taken in there. I don't want.
And Mark's not here, but I know that Tracy's making a mental note right now. So we can make sure that that is considered.
I actually just
that
woke
what
up,
that link
sorry, that
was?
was waking up.
I was gonna say, is that
So, okay.
And then Mayor, did you have a comment?
No, I
It
got
was
one
just
card.
me, I was worried about
Same
that
thing.
too. I thought about, I think about the picnic tables that are taken from Spring Lake. You know, you wonder what kind you need to put down. And some of those picnic tables in the park don't look too good either. They need to be replaced also. But anyway, okay.
We'll definitely relay that
That's it.
and make sure that's addressed through this process. So.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Come on, go ahead and vote. Roll call vote. Starting with Councilman Christensen.
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, go to item E, work session, fiscal year 2018 and 2019 budget. Dave?
Yes, so as part of this discussion, we've got several members of the Park Tax Committee here. We met yesterday and went over the applications. I think the applications were forwarded to the council for you to review, but we're going to have Tara come up and kind of go through the meeting we had yesterday. We wanted to give you our recommendation from the Park Tax Committee. We can incorporate that in our budget. We have to have I just went blank. We have to have a temporary budget approved next council meeting. So I'll turn it over to Tara and we'll see what we can have some discussion on the park tax.
I'm Tara Macon. I'm a member of the Parks, Arts, Recreation, Culture Committee in Payson, and we met and are going to present what we approved for your approval. These are the grants that were turned in by April 10th, and we reviewed them, and this is what we decided on unanimously. So the Payson Community Band requested $392.99. We awarded them in consideration $400. They will use it for us new, I think it was a snare drum and okay. All right, the Jewish Performing Arts and Cultural Education Center, they want to put some mirrors and some marley floor in the developments out front so that they can rent those out to dance studios. So we would like to award them $7,400. That will cover the mirrors and the floor. The Payson Civic Corral requested $8,500. We have awarded them $7,590. That will be put towards buying new musical pieces to be presented at Carnegie Hall. People Preserving Petite Neat requested $5,000 to upgrade the lighting to LED in their display rooms so that the old fluorescent light bulbs won't emit UV lighting and damage the artifacts in there. The Payson Mural Project, they requested $2,000. We would like to award them $2,000. That will be put towards supplies, and Mr. Vincent at Mount Nebo Junior High would like to do some murals in Payson, and we thought that was an appropriate use of money. Teenagers nowadays love to take pictures and post on Instagram in front of cool backdrops, and they could use it for prom and homecoming and all the dances, and we figured that would be a great thing for the teenagers of our city. Payson Community Theater requested $25,000, and we gave them $20,000. That would be used for purchasing copyrights and lighting, storage. Apparently they're in need of some storage space. So
And that would equal the grant money towards mini grants. Thank you. We also have discussed in length at a few of our meetings what we would like to use with the rest of the money that is allotted, the 70% of our tax decision. So we've talked at length about trails, and we know that they need to be finished, especially the one that connects the mile-long thing that goes by the river. Dry Creek Trail. And we're aware of that, but we thought the best use of the money for now to get this park tax visible so that the residents will know that we're working hard on it would be to do the pickleball courts in Memorial Park. And so I have a little slideshow. Thank you. So this is in the southeast corner of Memorial Park. It has been tennis courts forever. They are run down, and we need to turn this into a more family-friendly space. So we would like to do 6 pickleball courts and a basketball court. Pickleball is the up-and-coming sport. It is for young and old, and everybody in between, families, teens, everyone can use it, and it's a great recreation opportunity for our city. Spanish Fork is now building one, and so we think this would be awesome. It's similar to ping pong, tennis, and badminton, and it's conducive to all ages. I've never played it, so I don't know. I've seen them, I just never participated. Similar rules to badminton, tennis, but super fun. The northern courts up north of us are full all the time, and in St. George and Las Vegas, they are all over the place. I was just down there in February, and they are everywhere. It's, you just need a ball and a racket, and they've been finding out that people go to the pickleball courts to meet and greet other people, so it's a great way for the citizens to get together, and it keeps us healthy and strong because we're exercising. They have tournaments all over. I think these are just the tournaments.
Oh, what is that?
Mm-hmm. And here's people mingling. And apparently you put your paddle on the fence, and that means you're next in line. So if you don't put your paddle up, you get skipped over.
Can we make extra money by reserving spots?
We might have to.
You like rental spots?
I think so. Charge a premium. This is the one in Farmington. We have 2 design concepts that Carl has asked these companies to give us an estimate. This is an opinion because construction prices are going up fast, and it will probably change by the time we start construction. But the Design West estimates $473,000. That includes lights, so that we can play into the night. No, you're good. So this would be the 6 courts. And there's an option that for the basketball court, there is a $25,000 grant from the Utah Jazz that could be provided to do the basketball court next door. The only thing with that is we'd have to use the Utah Jazz colors. And what was the other thing?
And their contractor, I think they choose.
And their contractor. And then we debated on like what colors that would be. It's like
Is that the new city colors?
Yeah, is that the green and yellow, or is that the red and orange? Who knows? We don't know at this point. But yeah, green and
Oh yeah, let's use their green. They have like a green.
Purple. So we haven't checked into that, but that's a possibility to lower the cost of the basketball court. Is there another one? This is EPG Design. Round about the same estimate, $400,000 to $450,000. That is with lights. The lights are really expensive, but we feel like it would make it more conducive for families to come at night and to play. This is the jazz court. And then that would be the concept. It would improve that eyesore that's in the southeast corner. We are proposing, and we agreed upon, funding this project up to $300,000 with the park tax money over 2 years, and then have the city match that. And we would recommend that we start as soon as possible getting a design company on board. They're far out, so the sooner we can do that, the sooner we can start construction. We would like to have it within 12 to 18 months. And we would love to put up a banner as soon as possible saying pickleball coming soon, so that people know that the park tax is being used, and that we're grateful for their vote in consideration of passing that. Any questions?
I am just excited to think that we've done this, and I think every one of them are really good and will be appreciated. And I am so glad that you guys have made those decisions. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Can't wait to get rid of that ugly tennis court.
The other thing that we have a condition on is when they are granted money. So like the Payson Community Theater, we're asking them to include the park tax logo on their flyers and handouts and theater,
Playbills.
their playbills, so that the people of Payson know where their tax money is going towards. So if you approve the pickleball courts too, we'll kind of have a bigger placard there that said that that's funded by the park tax. So we're super excited. We're actually projecting more money than what we thought we were going to get this year. And with the new businesses coming in, it will probably keep going up. So that's super exciting.
I just have a couple of comments. First of all, I'd like to thank the committee. I think 4 of them are here out of the 5 voting members. So thank you very much. They were very diligent on this, and they took it very seriously. Just a couple of comments. So on the mural project, I'm not getting rid of it, Linda.
I'm going to jump in a minute too. So.
We had the stipulations on who could apply for this money, and you had to be like a 501c3, or somebody that's already doing something through the city, like the Payson, the community theater. So what we did is what the committee did was put a stipulation on this that we're going to look at doing like an arts council. So if you're in a council and come through a council and request funds, then you can come through the park money. So that'll open up opportunity for a lot more than our 501c3. So we're going to be working on that. And so we put just a stipulation. They have to be part of an arts council or something that we put in place so we could follow our rules and guidelines, but still be able to make it so they could do that because we wanted to, but they didn't quite qualify. So that's how we're doing that. And then on the pickleball courts, one thing they talked about is we don't have the money now in the park tax because it hasn't been earned yet that much. And so one thing that they talked about is actually borrowing money from the general fund, but just paying it back the next year so we can do it quickly instead of waiting until we have all that money. So those are 2 comments I have.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing at our budget retreat. I was anticipating this happening, and I lobbied the council to make sure that funds were available for this. So it's something that I believe in. And I also like that the community is involved from all sorts of different walks of life. I appreciate all the time that you've put in. So I'm excited for this. I do have one concern. We've had some information that has come to us that might affect the Hewish Theater. And I don't know if we're at liberty to talk about that yet or not. We've got meetings tomorrow with UDOT. And I don't know how far that potential decision is. But I don't want to sink money into something that might. Well, and that, right. And so I'd like to get a little more information on that. And I just throwing out there that one might be an issue. And as soon as I know that I can let you know, I'll let you know what that is. So SR 189, they're planning on whiting it, and UDOT has done a study, and every projection that they've given us shows Jewish theater being taken out. So if it's a 20, 30-year project, then it's not that big a deal. If they're gonna fast track and get it done in 5 years, I don't know that you wanna spend that money there.
Yeah, one thing about both the things from the Jewish is that they're movable, they can be
Oh,
someplace
okay.
else.
Okay.
Yeah, the Marley Farm will be rolled out and taken
Okay, well,
to
that's
the
good
city
to know.
center or something like
Okay.
that.
I know the city said they would use the mirrors.
Any
Okay,
questions?
well, then I have no problem.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tara.
Thanks for sitting clear through the end of this.
All the way through the meeting. So we couldn't because of some problems with the way structure. Needed to have to talk about
Okay.
Okay, do we need, do we want to approve this tonight, or how should we proceed? Oh, just in a work, so just for our information only. Okay, great, thank you again.
Yeah, so, Mayor and Council, this is a formal recommendation from the committee. The council has the final decision. We can work that in the budget, make sure that the funds are in there, but this is, unless there's any problems with how it's been allocated, and if the council agrees with that, we'll just plan on putting that in the budget so you can approve the temporary budget next council meeting, and then we have public hearings and things like that. We just wanted to let you know as soon as we could so you could start working on those issues.
Probably one thing too is that, Tara said it, but we did take the whole 20% that was allocated to the organizations, gave them the whole 20%. So.
Yeah, so I'm giving Tara back her.
Well, give it to me and we'll go.
There you go. Okay.
Just the,
So, so the rest of this is kind of a work session on budget. Sarah has prepared a PowerPoint to go through. She's actually at her finance meetings. She was going to stay here and go tonight, but I said we'll handle it. Before we get started, I would like to, as we go through this, you want to have another work session on a Saturday or a night, because we can talk about, we probably won't get into a lot of detail tonight. We'll go through her PowerPoint, but next week everybody's going to be gone, so I don't know if that works. Saturday of next week, we could meet in the afternoon. We have that Pay It Forward fun run, the 1 mile and the 5K Saturday morning, and then we're into next week, where on Wednesday we have to approve the tentative budget. I just wanted to know what your feelings are. We could actually have some discussions. We can't do anything formally. We have some discussions while we're in St. George, but I just want, if you guys want to have another work session to talk about any specifics, we're happy to do that. We want to accommodate what you want to do.
Dave, just out of curiosity, is all of St. George noticed that entire weekend? Since most
No, you don't have to.
We're not all going to be in the same place, but
right. It's their meeting. It's not a city meeting. You don't have to.
I just wondered how that worked.
So Dave, I have a question for you. What I'd like to see before we have another work session is see the preliminary budget that Sarah has all put together, so I can go line through it and look through it and really. We talked about pieces, but I can't see it,
Okay.
so it's hard for me to.
And we can send that out. I think she's got some slides here, but
I asked her about it today, and she said she didn't have it ready. So.
Okay. Sure, we can send that out to you. You did get her email that there was, one of the formulas didn't cross over, so we were more short than we thought. So we got together with the general fund departments. Some of them we made some cuts so that we could have a balanced budget. So we'll go through that and we'll show you what we had cut out, how we could do it, and then how the council wants to proceed, because we've got a balanced budget. But if you want to, but that does not include the new employees that we talked about. So if you want to add some of these things or put some of the things we cut back in, we have to raise some property taxes. She's got some slides on this. So we can go through this and we can stay as long as you want or let you go home as soon as you want. But and if I don't have some of the answers to this, I apologize. But Sarah prepared this. The budget discussion, we're going to talk about water projects, bonding issues, proposed rate increases, the storm drain projects, and then proposed rate increase, the balanced budget, property tax analysis, whether we do a property tax increase for the police officer, development services director, overall tentative budget. So we'll talk about those things in the next few minutes. And in the next budget, the water projects included in the budget replace some of the bad ERTs on some of the meters, additional filter on the upper PI pond, 1150 East Salem Canal Road, improvements there, and then the upper irrigation, the upper zone, the additional line to alleviate some of the PI, the pressurized irrigation concerns when we water the city ball fields and the schools and stuff like that. The pressure seems to go down. And then also the lower zone to fix those issues so that we can, right now with the way it is, we could start the projects out on Arrowhead Trail, but we couldn't finish build out without doing this project. So we had talked about that previously, and we'd have to bond for those bottom ones.
If I understand, Dave, most of the impact fees for water will pay this back, right?
As growth happens, impact fees can be put toward that. We're updating our impact fee analysis. We have to come back and approve that because these bottom ones were not initially put in the water. But once those are approved, we can use impact fees to help pay for that. We don't include that because you can't, for bonding purposes, you can't count on impact fees because if the growth stops, you still have to have a way to pay for it. But you're correct. These are just some of the, again, some of the existing pressure problems in the lower zone to get the Arrowhead Trail handled for build out. This is a you know, the 10-year projection that she put. If we don't do anything, no increase to the water rates, our fund balance goes to negative in a few years. If you do a $2, it pushes it out further to 2025. If you do a $4 increase, you're out to 2028, and that's kind of what we had proposed on that one. A $6 would put it out further than that, but just to make sure we can pay those projects and still keep somewhat of a healthy fund balance.
So we have a healthy fund balance now.
Not real healthy, but you can see where it's at.
Well, we're just under $2 million.
Under $2 million.
But with the $4 increase,
you'd be able to make your bond payment. You'd still be able to have some fund balance into the future.
do we want to be positive to help future generations?
Yes.
We'd hope so.
So,
well, the $4
you're going to get skewered for doing anything.
But $4 puts it out to 2028, which is a pretty good.
Yeah. But that's not taking into account the impact fees, right? This is just
that could.
Well, yeah. So that would. What happens if you charge this and growth happens and we're able to pay all of that? Where does that money go? Does it stay in fund balance?
It stays in fund balance.
I think if you project it out, if you really got the impact fees, you'd probably stay up to your $2 million or whatever.
And then you future councils can decide, you know, other projects that need to be done to be bonded for. It always helps to have a.
I just worry a little bit about. It seems like you always come in with zero in the bank because everybody wants to keep rates as low as possible, which I do too. And then we're always in a place where we're bonding because we have no money and blah 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 blah. It'd be nice to be working or let future generations work from a place of power. I don't know about cash, but
I think that's what we're trying to do here, so we can get the rooftops to get the retail tax base up, so it's kind of a catch-22 in some ways.
Well, but I just mean pay what you need to, so you can be planning for the future.
Okay. These are the current water rates analysis that we've got from the other communities. Right now, we're for our water rates, we are below average, just barely under there. Sarah's made the projection, if it's a $2 increase, we're still below average. If you go to $4, we're just above average a little bit, 603 to 617. If we go up $6, we would still be 2 spots above average, but we're hovering around that average rate of the different rates in the county. Now, this does not take into account, there's other cities that are looking at increasing rates too, so that may change where our position would be. But if you look right now, we're just 1 under the average, and if we're recommending the $4, which would put us 2 spots above average, but we're still in that average part of our water rates compared to the other communities.
But other people, they could raise theirs too.
Yeah, and there are several that
How is
are.
Springville so low?
What's that?
How is Springville so low? When I've looked at this,
Well, when I talked to the city manager, that's why they have the name of their city. They're Springville, they have a lot of water.
oh, okay.
They've got a lot of it. Yeah.
And that, I don't know the reason, but that's one of the things, they have a lot of springs and water that helps their community. Any other questions on water? I mean, that we can talk more as we go. She next went to the storm drain projects. What's funded is Ridge Lane to contain the stormwater runoff potential flooding of existing properties. That's what's budgeted to handle that problem. The SWIP compliance citywide implementation that includes city facilities. Everybody has to comply with the state SWIP requirements, including the city. And then some land purchase for some storm drain projects. Future major projects, 5-year plan, there's the 800 West Utah Avenue trunk line. We have to bond for that. The Riley Drive project, we have to bond for that, and the curb and gutter, which is a big one if we started tackling that beast. And so having that in there, she did another comparison on what our current rates are storm drain. Right now we're quite a bit under the average. If we raised it 50 cents, we would come up closer to the average. We'd still be under average. If we raised it $1, we're above average. And if we went to $2, we start getting up a little higher than the average in the community. She did this analysis, and we didn't put the actual businesses in here, but these are the effect that the increase would have. And we're just showing the 50 cent, which is what kind of recommendation. It would still keep us under average, but so much for the homes, the storm drain fee, it's not that great of an impact, but when you get into the businesses that have they have a lot of impervious surface, it starts to add up. So a 50 cent increase for some of our commercial businesses, like that top one, it would be a $208 a month increase in your storm drain fees. And so we're looking at the lower one, the 50 cents, to try to limit the impact of some of our businesses with that storm drain fee. If we went to $1 or $2, it doesn't seem like a lot of money, but the way it's calculated on impervious surface, parking lots, the Walmarts, the Temkins, the other things like that, it does add up on their monthly bill. So we're recommending the lower part. It still gives us some revenue to do some of these projects, but it doesn't make as big of an impact as if you went $1 or $2. So that's just food for thought that you can think about. These are the new positions that the council's talked about before. These are some of the costs of adding those. With the balanced budget, we did not add these in, so that's something we're going to have to talk about if we use property tax to handle those. Go ahead.
Just back on this one, I think we need to sit down on the Development Services Director and decide what it is we really want. Because I came into it thinking economic development, and then we were told development services. And I think we probably want aspects of both, but I think we need to figure out what it is we really want and need. And if it is a need, but I think we need to write a job description for what it is we want and figure that out. And I think that's going to take some collaborative discussions, because I don't think we're all on the same page as far as that goes.
Correct. And we can discuss that now, or we can do a work session where we have more time.
Do a
to
work
do that.
session where you can email back and forth and then bring it to a work session. I don't know.
Okay, and that's fine.
I don't know what everybody wants to do.
Well, maybe go along with Doug's suggestion, maybe somebody could write up a description, a job description, of what, like Travis or somebody like that, what they thought that job would entail.
Well, and maybe some meetings too, where like you've got Travis and Jill involved, who this affects them both directly. Like, what are their needs? Like, what do they need to get their jobs done? What do we see from the city council? Because we've got a little bit of different perspective on the vision that we have, but I think we need to maybe sit down and have some smaller meetings and find out what it is that we want and that they need and that they want, and find out if it really is something we need. I know, because I know that the city said like we're too top heavy and they're not, you guys aren't real big on that, but I think we need to figure out exactly what it is and what the purpose is for this position.
Melanie's wonderful at job descriptions. And we can work on something like that. I told Melanie yesterday, or maybe a little bit tongue-in-cheek, that all the council's going to be down in St. George, so maybe I'll have to have her come down and discuss that. But we can work on it.
Well, I thought she's going to get it done with us gone. It's a lot easier.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to worry about anyone that's...
I actually started a draft today.
Oh, so there you go.
I just-
But I do think that Travis and Jill need to be included on the discussion,
Sure.
because it's their world.
I think that's a good idea. So we can work on that, and we can have discussions, and just for procedural purposes, we have to have the tentative budget approved first meeting in May. But from May until the middle of June, or if we do the truth and taxation and have the property tax public hearing, that's in August. So anytime during those couple of months, we can amend the budget, we can change it. So there's time. We just need to make sure we have the tentative budget approved, and then we'll schedule public hearings and a determination of whether we do a truth taxation hearing. So we have some time that we can meet and refine some of these things. But good idea.
Well, maybe we...
Sounds like Melanie's already started on a job description.
So we pay big bucks. Just kidding. There's no big bucks in this town.
This is a chart that Sarah prepared. Right now, you see Payson's rate, 2017, and we really are a little unsure because this county has to give us the proposed certified tax rate. We haven't received yet, but as of right now, that's our tax rate at the top. The average of Utah County is down below, so we're quite a bit lower than the average. If we were to hire the police officer and the development services director, that's what we would have, that's the revenue we'd have to generate. And if you look in the middle, it's a 23% increase on our property tax. If you look at it on the side, it's a $3.47 a month increase on the property tax for a house with a property value of $250,000. So it's $41.58 a year. Sometimes you look at that percentage, 23%, and people look at their full tax bill and say that's going to kill us, but it's really only the city portion.
That's only a drop in the bucket to the school district.
I know, but people don't realize that.
You can raise that tax.
So she just prepared that, and if you want both those positions, that's what we have to raise our property tax to pay for that. So Brian, this is and Sarah probably doesn't have it totally finished, but here's some of the summary of the proposed budget. Some of the tax revenues and licenses that we're projecting to get through the proposed budget. I don't know if we need to spend a lot of time on these, and I don't understand some of the stuff that she's not here to explain some of that. But if you look at for instance, like the mayor and council, what's budgeted and what we're proposing to budget on the end, we're doing some increases there and some go down. I think she has on here the combined revenues, for the general fund, we've from the previous year's budget, we're cutting at $140,000. Capital projects we're cutting. Some of it we're increasing the C and Class C road funds. I don't know how much time you want to spend on these now until you get the budget you're asking for, so you can do it.
Yeah, I think if it just gets sent to us, we can peruse through it.
Okay.
Dave, I have one question. I don't know if this is time to do it, but Pleasant Grove, approve, or gonna approve the road tax fee. Are we gonna discuss that at all, doing the fee? Seems like something we ought to at least discuss.
We're happy to do that.
Can we do it? Is it, so we can do it now, or?
Oh, I think we can do it. More and more cities are getting on board with it. We'd have to have some consultant to do some analysis to propose what that would be. We haven't done that for this budget year. If you really want to have some discussion to put more money into our roads, we can sure do that.
I think we need to start a discussion, maybe if we don't do it for this budget, we need to, I think, start a
Be ready for next
discussion. Because, and whether it's true or not, in Pleasant Grove, they said they got out and tried to sell it, and they said a lot of people are really, really in favor of it. I'd like to see how it, I guess it's just, they don't have to, it's just a vote for the council, but I think they're gonna put it out to their public, but anyway, I'd just like to start the process just to see, because that's one of our real challenges, the road infrastructure, so.
Okay. That's something we can do.
Can the city do a gas tax? I mean, I know that's a hot subject too, and you're capturing other people going in and driving on the roads.
There is a transportation tax that has been, I guess it was a couple of years old, but the county had to pass it. If they didn't pass it, then there was a time frame that the cities could pass it, and that has been amended in this last legislative session, but we can go and look at that and see what action the county can take, and it may open up an opportunity for us to implement it if they don't.
One of the things that's an advantage for all of you going down to the league is there will be some classes on that. There was a bill passed on transportation, and I'm sure the league's going to go into quite a bit of detail on what that is and what we can do.
Right.
And so, yeah, we can have some discussions down there and hopefully get more information on what we can and can't do.
We're at the county level, then it all goes to the BRT, Provo Orem infrastructure, or building a road across Utah Lake once again, before it comes to us.
So this is just what the staff proposal was, depending on if you want those employees and we do, you know, I think the top ones needs to happen because we got to get those water projects so that we can still have growth. But if you add those together, it'd be a total of an $8 a month increase on all our utilities. And that's just something you guys can kick around and we can have further discussions. If you don't like one of those, let's talk about it. Like I say, if we want to talk about the Development Services Director, if we don't do that, we may not have to raise property taxes that much. And we can go from there. The only other thing I just wanted to show you, and because we did try to come up with a balanced budget, and so we didn't meet with all the general fund departments. We tried to meet with those that we could, but these are some of the things that were cut out of the budget to try to make so that we could have a balanced budget. And I don't know if it's visible, but we had the last payment on the fire truck. We're actually proposing that we make that payment out of our general fund balance, and that opens up that $90,000 to help with the deficit that we had. We cut some natural gas from the pool. The police dropped some of the uniform allowance, education and training, firearms, tasers. We tried to become as lean as we could and still be able to function. If you look down, we did on our pool bond payment, lowered that amount and used more impact fees to pay that bond payment. We can't pay the bond payment 100% with impact fees because part of it's an existing deficiency, but we raised that up a little bit. As you can see, we just took some out of IT, salmon supper, professional services. The golf course, they're trying to replace all their sprinkler heads with more efficient heads, you know, with water, but Mark said he could take that out and we'll try to put that in next year. I think everybody was trying to be workable so that we could say, you know, we're trying to do our part to cut where we can so that we can have a balanced budget. So these are the things that helped us get to a balance. If there's some of those things that we want put back in, I know Mayor Wright had talked and we were trying to increase the Miss Payson amount for next year. We did take that back out, but we can add that back in if we need to. But these are just some of the things, we just want to show you some of the things that we have cut out so that you're aware. And if you get, when Sarah sends the full budget, you go line by line, and you're all welcome to come in and meet individually with Sarah or myself or both so that you can look at what's in there. We're not trying to hide anything. Everything, any question you have, we'll try to answer. So that was really the last slide I had. I don't know if talking generally about budget, we can have whatever discussion you want. If you want us to get that budget out to you next week, we can do that, and we can have discussions again down in St. George if you want to do that, and then we'll move forward from there. I don't know, Brian, you talked to Sarah today. She's at her conference the rest of this week, and then she's out next week till Thursday. I think she's took her family to Disneyland, so we may not get that budget until she gets back. So, any questions, any concerns? You got some department heads here, you got staff. Any other thing you want to talk about on budget?
I'm going to throw something out there, and I might get some things thrown at me, but looking at the things we're cutting, we have I guess it's still in the budget, is for the chamber. We've been given $10,000. $12,000. But a couple of things. One is, last time we had a big discussion on this, and they were supposed to come in every quarter and show us how they're spending the money, and we've never heard from them once. And also, they promised $1,500, and it's a good project. I'm not saying it's a good project for the murals, but where does that come in with chamber money? And that's money based, a lot of we're giving them. So I'm just having a little heartache with
paying for the murals with the money that we gave them from the park tax.
And then also not reporting back to us when we asked them to do that, and they didn't report back to us once, because they have some pretty hefty fees now. I just got the bill from them for what, to be a member of the chamber for the bank, and they have some pretty hefty fees. So I'm just bringing that up. So
thanks for your contribution to our murals.
Yeah.
I have talked to Jade and have asked her, and she wondered if it was appropriate, but I've asked her to come, and when she comes, and give us an update on what the chamber's doing. And so I think that would be a good thing.
And that was part of our discussion. That if we gave them that money, that was their requirement, and they did not fulfill that requirement. So.
And I talked to Shelley about that a few months ago, and I think she realized they haven't done that, and they want to do better with that. But you're on the chamber board.
They did a budget. I mean, I saw it, but I think, when did you actually decide to start giving them the money?
This is a year ago, and that was part of the stipulation. They had to come every quarter and give us.
I've seen them 4 times now.
They give us a report on what money's coming in, how they're spending it. And
so who did we tell?
The chamber president.
Who did we tell?
It was Shelley. Private Shelley and the president.
It was Lorraine, I think.
Was it Lorraine?
Anyway, so they knew they were here at the
Shelley was here too, though.
Yeah,
they were both here.
And I think she realizes that. I talked to her when we were trying to finalize the Easter egg hunt and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I told Mike about 6 months ago to talk to him, and I think he talked to him, and still we haven't heard anything. No,
I can talk to him.
I know, but
still. They did. No, they just barely. I mean, that was the first one I'd seen. They are the reason they're raising they are trying to get it so that they don't have to get so much money from us.
But I'm just saying, they have been notified and talked to, and they still, and anyway, it's just the comments.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
So what did our insurance go up to?
Do you know offhand? Are you talking about the health insurance or
Yes.
the liability insurance?
The health insurance.
So right now, come on up, Melanie, in case I get something wrong. But right now, we've been told that it will be the 10% increase, that is what we budgeted as the 10%. We were worried that they were going to make it higher than that. So right now, with what we currently have, it's a 10% increase. They're also looking at other options. Do you want to talk about that a minute?
That's why I was late. We were meeting with the broker tonight, and we do have some other options that we'll get to Dave and present that there is some possibility that we may get under 10% too.
So what is the city paying? What does the city pay and what does the employee pay?
The city pays about, we have two plans, a traditional plan and a high deductible plan. For the traditional, the employee pays about 7%, and it's about 4.5%, 5% for the high deductible plan.
So what are they paying? That's what I'm,
Oh, the amount?
what's the amount?
I want to say it's, for the traditional, it's like 59 something a month. I can email it, yeah, and like 35 if you're on the other for a family, that's a family plan.
35 for a family?
Per pay period.
Okay, so it's what, like $70 a month?
Mhm. Are there other questions on benefits?
So, retirement. So I have a question on this. So when people do retire, do they get like a lump sum? Or do they get like monthly?
When they retire from
Depends on when they started, right? There's a
How does that work?
401k that's theirs, correct?
Right, it depends, are you talking you just say
But if they started later, there's some sort of a pension, right?
Right, there's a tier 1 employee and a tier 2 employee. So anybody hired that has never worked public service today would be hired in a tier 2. And if you're tier 1, then you're a pension.
So how does that pay out?
It varies on how.
When you retire, the state sits down with you and you have choices as to how that.
How they want to pay you?
And it's a pension, so over time, you can, they have various options. They have a full day training just to understand how it's allocated out.
Is it a pension? I thought it was like a 401k, more or less, that your money was there right now, so you weren't borrowing against future. Like pensions, oftentimes you're borrowing against future payments. Where the current system, the money is going in right now and it sits there right now. Correct?
I think there's two parts to it. There is a 401k part or something equivalent to that, but then the pension is at a percentage of what your highest 3 years average, I believe, is what it was.
Same here, Doug.
Pardon?
Same exactly.
Well, is it that?
So it's
See,
like,
I figure I'm not retiring until I make 75, so I haven't looked at it that closely.
But it pays.
It's the same as the school district.
Yeah.
You're retiring in 7 years?
And then it depends on how many years you serve and you get a percentage.
Look at that other
Yeah.
part. I just
Yeah.
went
And they
for
pay you-
401k portion.
yeah,
I'm like, I'm never retiring.
It's a pension portion, a portion of it is the pension, whether you get checked, but how much that is depends on whether, how you work it out, and a surviving spouse you lower that down, and the surviving spouse, if I were to die, my wife would still get a part of that pension. Things like that. There's just options you have to choose as you go on.
If my understanding is the same, it is the same retirement that I have, that it's paid into by the city, and when you retire, it has nothing to do with the city. It's all dealt with by that private entity that does it. Utah Retirement Systems isn't run by the state. It's a private industry, and so.
But it is state mandated. We don't have a choice on how much is, we're told
How much we pay
per person has to be paid in. And it's not an option in that type of
so
situation.
then do we pay into their 401s? I mean, or do they match it?
Right now, we don't, because the amount that we have to pay into the state retirement takes everything and more than, it used to be that the state retirement amount was less, it was like 12%, and we paid 17.9, so that difference, they could put it in a 401k, but right now, it's up, the state retirement requirement's up higher than that, so we don't put anything extra into anybody's account. Now, individual employees can sign up for like a 457 account, they have to pay that out of their own money for retirement to go in that. Melanie's been trying to get all the information we can get on health insurance. It's probably, if we look at the calendar, because we're all going to be gone next week, probably when we have to adopt a tentative budget, we can do a work session before at 5, or we can do one like this after. And if you want to really get into the detail of what you know, what the different plans, what some of the different options are, we're happy to do that. And that's probably the soonest we can probably do it. Unless I saw Councilman Christensen shake his head when I said we can meet next Saturday afternoon.
I'd just like to know
My
how we
mother has
compare,
some plans.
how our insurance, what we pay compares to like what maybe the school district pays.
We can show you compared to other cities. I think we have some of that.
I've been working on that.
I don't know about
Okay.
the school district. We can ask them for that information.
I can tell you because I pay it. I think it's $307 a month.
And what's that for, a family plan?
That's for a family plan. High deductible. There's two. I think there's two tiers. One's two. What's the other tier, Doug? 2, 3.
Tier 1 and Tier 2.
That's it.
Yeah.
The
No.
17 that-
Yeah, but I'm just saying our monthly out of pocket is
yeah, I don't know.
it's like 200,
City place.
250, and one's 307 or whatever the tiers are. So.
And we've tried to encourage some of our employees to go to a high deductible plan, and we have more and more signing up for that. But and maybe that's an option if that's the only option. I think we can get our increase down some, but we'll just have to look at all the details and let you guys go over it.
Well, I think it's just gonna keep going up.
It always
So,
has, it always
yeah, it
has
does.
during
I
my
mean,
career.
I understand that. It's just like the common folk, like me, we just have to keep paying the increase. And I'm just thinking people are gonna have to start doing that because we're not gonna have the insurance like we had 20 years ago where, you work for somebody and they paid for everything and it was awesome. And now they just keep taking stuff away but just keep increasing the premiums. So that's what I'm wondering is how long can we keep going where we keep taking the increase and we're paying for it?
Well, last year we didn't have an increase because we did up everybody's deductible. I mean, we've taken away some things. It's not like we're just.
Well, no,
you
it's
guys
not
keep
even
paying
you, it's
for
they
it.
keep doing that
Well, I
too.
know.
Yeah.
So
But also the plan is not as rich as it was, and that's how.
That's
we
what I'm
kept it,
saying, yeah.
And so even when you say, let's compare it to the school district, you have to actually have the details of the plans to see if they are comparable, and then look at what contributions are being made at, whether it's family or single or whoever, It's,
And we have to look at
it's
it
involved.
as well. I just attended a training last Thursday and Friday and with cities and counties, and we're very concerned. There's a lot of discussion with law enforcement and trying to, retain and even recruit people to that profession. And so there was a big push. I mean, that's really, we've got to look at that. And some of the entities there, for their, we used high deductible plan, they offer it and there's no charge to the employee. And so, and some of them do pay into, give a little bit to a match for 401k. So there again, your question, where are we at comparative to others? We do need to evaluate.
See, that's a job that that one scares me, I see if you go around the corner, somebody gonna shoot you. That's a high risk job. And to me, they need special circumstances. I'm not saying anything bad, I'm just.
No, it's hard though, because you can't say, well, for this
No,
employee, we're gonna pay 100%, but this employee, we're only
And
gonna.
maybe you need to increase their pay. I don't know,
Well, so that's all, that all factors into it, right? So police pay is different from parks, crew pay and everything else like that. So I think we already looked at that.
That's why we're updating job descriptions. We're having a professional look at our salary scale and trying to update that. Because you gotta compare the job, what people do with the other communities, and that's what we've been trying to do to make sure that we're competitive.
Can I give an announcement just on a brighter note? The Jazz won, so.
Thanks a lot. That was
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, you DVR'd it and wanted to watch it without. No, I know.